Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum, the refreshing, delicious treat that gives you chewing enjoyment, presents for your listening enjoyment Edmund O'Brien as...
Johnny Dollar.
Hello, this is Bruce Yule, the Lockhart estate.
Yes, Mr. Yule. Thanks for calling back. I want to let you know I was in town. I'd like to get together with you if you have time to see me.
Why, yes, I just got out of court, and I have a meeting in a few minutes. It shouldn't take long. Could you meet me at 5:30 for a drink?
Sure, any place you say.
All right, there's a place called Todd's right around the corner from my offices on Spring.
I can find it. This is quite a mix-up, Mr. Yule. The Lockhart's being killed like that?
Yes, it is.
Are you any closer to learning which one died first?
We are not. It was a matter of only a minute or so.
Yeah, it's only a $200,000 question who lived those couple of minutes.
The makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum bring you Edmund O'Brien in a transcribed adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
For refreshment while you work, for enjoyment anytime, chew a stick of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. The delicious, long-lasting, real mint flavor of Wrigley's Spearmint cools your mouth and freshens your taste. The good, smooth chewing helps keep you feeling fresh and alert. Adds enjoyment to whatever you're doing. So indoors, outdoors, at work or play, enjoy chewing Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. Wrigley's Spearmint. Refreshing, delicious.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Washingtonian Life Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Horace Lockhart matter. Expense account item 1, $8.90, fare and incidentals between Santa Barbara and Los Angeles. Your Los Angeles agent found that I was on a case in Montecito and saved you some $200 in fare from the East Coast to Los Angeles by bringing me down from Santa Barbara. At 5:30 that same afternoon, I met Mr. Bruce Yule, attorney for the Lockhart estate.
You lead off, Mr. Dollar. I'll answer any question I can.
So far, I know the bare facts. I tried to get some information from the police, but everybody told me to call some other office.
You must have called the local authorities?
Yeah, shouldn't I have?
Mr. and Mrs. Lockhart were killed in county territory, so it's under the jurisdiction of the sheriff.
I was way off then. I was almost up to the highway commissioner when I quit.
Well, we have a fairly complicated system here. The Lockharts were killed on the Coast Highway, north of Malibu. They were returning from a visit to Santa Barbara when their car was either forced off the road or went out of control. Crashed through a guard fence and over a bank.
What time of night was it?
It was about 2 in the morning. Now, the actual report was phoned in by the operator of an all-night garage on the highway. But the man was notified by a young woman. She said she had seen the accident happen, had stopped, and gone down to look at the car. But that's where our information stopped.
Yeah. Am I right that she did tell somebody that one of the Lockharts was still alive then, but that she didn't say which one?
Well, that's correct. That's what she told the garage operator. His name is Gallagher.
And the whole thing hangs on this girl. What's been done to locate her?
Well, we put ads in the classified sections of all the papers. It happened only night before last. I'm certain she'll call in before long.
I hope so. How often do you look at the classified section, Mr. Yule?
Well, certainly we can hope that she has friends she's talked to about the accident. And even if she doesn't see it, why, somebody will and tell her about it.
The man in the garage. You said his name was Gallagher?
Yes, Patrick.
Thanks very much, Mr. Yule. I think I'll rent a car and go out and see him.
Good evening.
Hi. You Mr. Gallagher?
Yeah, that's right.
My name is Dollar. I'm an investigator for an insurance company. I'd like to talk to you about that accident the other night.
That Lincoln with the man and his wife?
Yeah, the Lockhart.
Oh, that was a mess. We should get him on this highway. Crazy fool drivers. He was quite a big shot, I read.
He was. What I want to find out about is the girl who reported the accident to you.
I don't know anything about her. She busted in here all excited and told me about it, and then she left. Never saw her before, and I haven't seen her since.
What exactly did she say? You remember?
What do you mean?
I'd like to learn her exact words if you remember them.
What's so important about her?
We're looking for her. I'll explain it to you. But do you remember what she said?
Not her exact words, maybe. She told me about the accident. She said there were two people in the car, and she said one of them was dead, but she thought one was still alive.
Can you be sure that she didn't say, I think the man is still alive, or I think the woman is still alive?
No, I don't think she said that.
Did she say there were two people in the car, or a man and a woman?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't think anything about that. All I was thinking was calling the police. As a matter of fact, I was asleep. She woke me up, shaking me, and talking about it.
It took you a couple of seconds to come to your senses then, I suppose, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. She left, and I called the police.
But it's just possible that she might have mentioned the man or the woman still being alive.
Well, yeah, maybe, before I was awake. Well, I don't get it. What difference does it make?
It makes a $200,000 difference to one of two people, Mr. Gallagher.
What are you giving me?
You carry life insurance, don't you?
Yeah, all I can afford.
Well, the Lockharts each had a policy naming each other as first beneficiary, but each of them named a different second beneficiary.
Yeah, I'm beginning to see.
Mrs. Lockhart had named a son by a former marriage. So if she survived her husband in that crash, even for a minute or so, she became his beneficiary for that length of time. If that was the case, her son is in line for the money from both policies. If she died first, it's the other way around, and her daughter by Lockhart is in line.
Oh, I didn't think they cut it that fine.
You can see how important it is for you to remember exactly what this girl said.
Well, knowing isn't going to make it any easier, to be sure. I'm not sure, that's all.
What did this girl look like?
Well, I give you a little more help there. She had blue eyes, and it seemed to me she was wearing an awful lot of makeup. It was really plastered on. You couldn't really see her skin.
Like stage makeup? What about eyelashes? Were they false?
Yeah, they were. Now that you mention it, they were too long to be real.
What else?
She had a scarf over her hair, but I'm pretty sure it was blonde. And that's about all. She was wearing a coat. Oh, and I noticed when she left, she was barrel-legged and wearing white shoes with high heels. Her legs were tan, so maybe she lives on the beach around here someplace.
Could that have been makeup on her legs, too?
I don't know. Maybe it was.
What about her car? What kind was it? What color?
I didn't see it.
Didn't see it?
No, she parked there by the side of the building where you did. When I was on the phone, she pulled out and headed toward L.A. It sounded like about a Chevy or a Plymouth, something about that size.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Mr. Gallagher. If you think of anything more, I wish you'd call me. I'm at the Homeby Hotel on Wilshire. I'll leave my card. I drove up to the scene of the crash about 2 miles farther north. The Lockharts couldn't have picked a better spot. There was an almost sheer drop of more than 20 feet to some big rocks just above the beach. The rocks still showed the marks of the impact. At the sheriff's station on the way back into Los Angeles, I saw their photographs and heard their theory. The car hadn't been forced off the road. The tire marks it left made it appear that either the driver had fallen asleep or that the crash had not been accidental. The next morning, I was summoned by Bruce Ewell to the Lockhart address. I found it at the end of one of the elite roads in L.A.'s prize subdivision, Bel Air. It was guarded by an iron gate, and the mansion itself was evidently a replica of something Italian. I was told to wait for Mr. Ewell in a domed entry hall.
Well, thanks for coming out, Mr. Dollar.
I wouldn't have missed it for the world.
Yes, it's quite a place, isn't it? I wanted the children to meet you. Do you know about them?
Only that they're half-sister and brother.
Yes. Michael Adams stayed with his own father. Never has lived here. He arrived from Seattle last night. This is the first time he's met his stepsister.
That's Gail Lockhart.
Yes. She's 23 and he's 27. Well, I wanted them to know we're doing everything we can to find this perverse witness who's become so important. Why doesn't she reveal herself?
I wish I knew.
Well, this is Mr. Dollar, the insurance investigator who's come out to help us. Miss Gail Lockhart.
How do you do?
Miss Lockhart.
And Mr. Michael Adams.
Oh, hey, Mr. Dollar.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Adams. You both have my sympathy.
Oh, I think Miss Lockhart deserves it more than I do. I'm no more than a stranger. I don't even remember my mother. She and my father divorced before I was 2.
Oh, stop it.
Sorry.
Mr. Ewell, I don't have to stay, do I? May I go to my room?
Why, yes, Gail, if you want to.
I do. I can't talk about it anymore.
I'm sorry, but I feel like I should explain my place in this. I know I don't belong.
It's all right, Mr. Adams. Gail is terribly upset. She was in Santa Barbara with her parents that night. She was supposed to drive back with them. They'd been drinking heavily, and she begged them to stay over. And when her father refused to do that, she refused to ride with them.
I didn't know she was with them.
Well, you know how these situations are. She's full of self-incrimination. Can't help feeling she should have done more, like take the keys to the car, or even call the police, or something. Well, what are we going to do about this witness, Mr. Dollar?
Maybe you can help us, Mr. Adams. Did you ever read the personal column in the classified advertising section of your paper?
Personal column? Hardly ever.
Have you any idea when the last time was?
Oh, months back, anyway.
I think we have to do better than that personal column, Mr. Ewell. Spot a few small ads through the other pages. Have you contacted any but local papers?
No, not yet.
Just because that garage man told us her car headed for L.A. is no proof that she's here. She might have passed right on through.
Yes, but a girl driving alone at that time of night...
We have no reason to think that she was alone. Gallagher didn't see anybody else, but he didn't see the car either. There are people who just don't like to get involved in things like this, you know.
Yes, that's true, isn't it? What would you say to posting a small reward?
I think that would be a good idea. Not a reward for the information we want, because we'd get too many cranks who would say anything for money.
Say, that's right, isn't it?
I think we should offer the reward for any information that will lead us to the witness and print the description Gallagher gave us.
That's a good idea.
Sure is.
Well, I'll go call my secretary and have her compose an ad and get it into as many evening editions in the counties as possible. And San Bernardino and Riverside counties as well. Excuse me.
Golly. This suspense is really something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I know I don't deserve any of the money. Why, you could have knocked me over with a feather when I found out she had me in the policy. Oh, I suppose she always felt bad about the way she deserted my father and me and wanted to make it up, huh?
That was probably it.
But, man, $200,000. If I get that, I'll be sitting on top of the world.
I wouldn't spend it yet if I were you.
Oh, I know it's a toss-up, but sure would be justice, wouldn't it? With all she'll get anyway, Miss Lockhart doesn't need it like I do. Why, from the looks of this place, she probably wouldn't even miss it.
Maybe you're right, Mr. Adams. She probably won't miss anything but her parents for quite a while.
Sorry. Can't seem to say the right thing around here.
Practical Mr. Adams had to wait along with the rest of us. The second day, the reward was increased. It was increased the third and the fourth day until it stood at $1,000. There it stayed for fear somebody was sitting on the information and watching the price of it go up. A few newspaper and radio reporters played it up on the mystery woman angle, but the actual $200,000 question we wanted to ask her was never let out. We had some worthless reaction, but on the seventh day, we got what we figured was our first break. An apartment house manager phoned Bruce Ewell, and I went out to talk to her.
Well, it's not me alone, Mr. Dollar. A few of my tenants have mentioned it, too. We're all curious about this mystery woman, you know.
Uh-huh.
Well, this is Tuesday, and that awful accident happened a week ago Sunday, didn't it?
That's right, Mrs.
To
Brewer.
be exact, about 2 Monday morning. Well, at 10 o'clock that morning, one of the girls who'd been living here left with almost a whole month's rent to live out, Susan Lee.
Oh? Would you say she fit the description in the papers?
Now, that's why I decided to call. We'd share the reward, but I'd do the talking. Because, especially the theatrical makeup that was mentioned. Susan was a dancer in the naughty 90s nightclub on Santa Monica Boulevard. A specialty dancer, as she put it.
Did she own a car?
That was another thing. The ad mentioned a Chevy or a Plymouth, and she had a Plymouth.
This is very interesting, Mrs. Brugger. Did she say where she was going?
Well, she said she'd found a better job in another town, but when I asked her where, she changed the subject. She was hiding something.
Made no arrangements for mail?
Well, I asked her about that, too, and she said she'd come back and pick it up as soon as she could. I think she was in trouble.
Has any mail come?
Well, nothing much. A couple of bills. This one today. From a photographer.
A photographer. That might...
With high heels. Her legs were tan, so maybe she lives on the beach around here someplace.
Could that have been makeup on her legs, too?
I don't know. Maybe it was.
What about her car? What kind was it? What color?
I didn't see it.
Didn't see it.
No, she parked there by the side of the building where you did. When I was on the phone, she pulled out and headed toward L.A. It sounded like about a Chevy or a Plymouth, something about that size.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Mr. Gallagher. If you think of anything more, I wish you'd call me. I'm at the Holmby Hotel on Wilshire. I'll leave my card. I drove up to the scene of the crash about 2 miles farther north. The Lockharts couldn't have picked a better spot. There was an almost sheer drop of more than 20 feet to some big rocks just above the beach. The rocks still showed the marks of the impact. At the sheriff's station on the way back into Los Angeles, I saw their photographs and heard their theory. The car hadn't been forced off the road. The tire marks it left made it appear that either the driver had fallen asleep or that the crash had not been accidental. The next morning, I was summoned by Bruce Ewell to the Lockhart address. I found it at the end of one of the elite roads in L.A.'s prize subdivision, Bel Air. It was guarded by an iron gate, and the mansion itself was evidently a replica of something Italian. I was told to wait for Mr. Ewell in a domed entry hall.
Well, thanks for coming out, Mr. Dollar.
I wouldn't have missed it for the world.
Yes, it's quite a place, isn't it? I wanted the children to meet you. Do you know about them?
Only that they're half-sister and brother.
Yes. Michael Adams stayed with his own father. Never has lived here. He arrived from Seattle last night. And this is the first time he's met his stepsister.
That's Gail Lockhart.
Yes. She's 23 and he's 27. Well, I wanted them to know we're doing everything we can to find this perverse witness who's become so important. Why doesn't she reveal herself?
I wish I knew.
Well, this is Mr. Dollar, the insurance investigator who's come out to help us. Miss Gail Lockhart.
How do you do?
Miss Lockhart?
And Mr. Michael Adams.
Oh, hey, Mr. Dollar.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Adams. You both have my sympathy.
Oh, I think Miss Lockhart deserves it more than I do. I'm no more than a stranger. I don't even remember my mother. She and my father divorced before I was 2.
Oh, stop it.
Sorry.
Mr. Ewell, I don't have to stay, do I? May I go to my room?
Why, yes, Gail, if you want to.
I do. I can't talk about it anymore.
I'm sorry, but I feel like I should explain my place in this. I know I don't belong.
It's all right, Mr. Adams. Gail is terribly upset. She was in Santa Barbara with her parents that night. She was supposed to drive back with them. They'd been drinking heavily, and she begged them to stay over. And when her father refused to do that, she refused to ride with them.
I didn't know she was with them.
Well, you know how these situations are. She's full of self-incrimination. Can't help feeling she should have done more, like take the keys to the car, or even call the police, or something. Well, what are we going to do about this witness, Mr. Dollar?
Maybe you can help us, Mr. Adams. Do you ever read the personal column in the classified advertising section of your paper?
Personal column? Hardly ever.
Have you any idea when the last time was?
Oh, months back, anyway.
I think we have to do better than that personal column, Mr. Ewell. Spot a few small ads through the other pages. Have you contacted any but local papers?
No, not yet.
Just because that garage man told us her car headed for L.A. is no proof that she's here. She might have passed right on through.
Yes, but a girl driving alone at that time of night...
We have no reason to think that she was alone. Gallagher didn't see anybody else, but he didn't see the car either. There are people who just don't like to get involved in things like this, you know.
Yes, that's true, isn't it? What would you say to posting a small reward?
I think that would be a good idea. Not a reward for the information we want, because we'd get too many cranks who would say anything for money.
Say, that's right, isn't it?
I think we should offer the reward for any information that will lead us to the witness, and print the description Gallagher gave us.
That's a good idea.
Sure is.
But I'll go call my secretary and have her compose an ad and get it into as many evening editions in the counties as possible. And San Bernardino and Riverside counties as well. Excuse me.
Golly. This suspense is really something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, I know I don't deserve any of the money. Why, you could have knocked me over with a feather when I found out she had me in the policy. Oh, I suppose she always felt bad about the way she deserted my father and me and wanted to make it up, huh?
That was probably it.
But, man, $200,000. If I get that, I'll be sitting on top of the world.
I wouldn't spend it yet if I were you.
Oh, I know it's a toss-up, but sure would be justice, wouldn't it? With all she'll get anyway, Miss Lockhart doesn't need it like I do. Why, from the looks of this place, she probably wouldn't even miss it.
Maybe you're right, Mr. Adams. She probably won't miss anything but her parents for quite a while.
Sorry. Can't seem to say the right thing around here.
The practical Mr. Adams had to wait along with the rest of us. The second day, the reward was increased. It was increased the third and the fourth day until it stood at $1,000. There it stayed for fear somebody was sitting on the information and watching the price of it go up. A few newspaper and radio reporters played it up on the mystery woman angle, but the actual $200,000 question we wanted to ask her was never let out. We had some worthless reaction, but on the seventh day, we got what we figured was our first break. an apartment house manager phoned Bruce Ewell, and I went out to talk to her.
Well, it's not me alone, Mr. Dollar. A few of my tenants have mentioned it, too. We're all curious about this mystery woman, you know.
Uh-huh.
Well, this is Tuesday, and that awful accident happened a week ago Sunday, didn't it?
That's right, Mrs.
To
Brewer.
be exact, about 2 Monday morning. Well, at 10 o'clock that morning, one of the girls who'd been living here left with almost a whole month's rent to live out, Susan Lee.
Oh? Would you say she fit the description in the papers?
Now, that's why I decided to call. We'd share the reward, but I'd do the talking. Because, especially the theatrical makeup that was mentioned. Susan was a dancer in the naughty 90s nightclub on Santa Monica Boulevard. A specialty dancer, as she put it.
Did she own a car?
That was another thing. The ad mentioned a Chevy or a Plymouth, and she had a Plymouth.
This is very interesting, Mrs. Brugger. Did she say where she was going?
Well, she said she'd found a better job in another town, but when I asked her where, she changed the subject. She was hiding something.
Made no arrangements for mail?
Well, I asked her about that, too, and she said she'd come back and pick it up as soon as she could. I think she was in trouble.
Has any mail come?
Well, nothing much. A couple of bills. This one today. From a photographer.
A photographer. That might... The police say no other car was involved.
Oh, then it must have been that husband.
You know his full name?
Yeah, it was Phil. I heard her say that.
Philip Roberts. It's probably a common name, but we'll get on it. You talked to her the next day, you know, about a paycheck?
Yeah, she phoned me, and she told Mr. Cobley she was sick because she didn't want him to ask questions about why she was leaving. So I went down and got her check. I met her in a drive-in joint on Santa Monica, and the same thing, and making me promise not to tell anybody.
You have any idea where she might have gone?
Yeah, I have.
Where?
Once a week, every Sunday, Susan used to get flowers. She used to say they were from some masher in San Diego. She'd tear up the card and let the flowers dry up on her dressing table. A bouquet came that Sunday night, and she didn't even unwrap it. It was one of those what's the future nights for me. I was figuring how many years I had left in the racket, wondering what had made me go wrong with the way I spent all the time I'd been in it. Well, I was real gone. When Susan left, I took her flowers and brought them home, and I read the card. It said, as usual, if you ever need me. That's where she's gone.
Do you know, or are you guessing?
Both, I guess. I met one like that when I was Susan's age. That's where I should have gone. Maybe she did. I still got the card with the name of the florist on it.
San Diego is some 120 miles from Los Angeles. But when I opened the phone book and saw how many Philip Roberts there were to be checked, the trip seemed short. I didn't get there in time that night, but the next morning I located the florist. He had no trouble remembering the man who so faithfully sent flowers on Sunday. At noon that day, I'd found Robert's house, and I recognized the girl who opened the door to me.
Yes?
Susan Lee?
No, she isn't here.
Wait a minute.
No, leave me alone. Go away. Get your foot out. I didn't know. I didn't have anything to do with it. I didn't know.
Let me in, Miss Lee. You don't have to be afraid. All I want to ask you about is the accident you saw last Sunday night.
No, you're lying.
Let me in.
You're lying. I read about your reward in the papers. You tried to trick me. How did you find me?
I had to find you.
I didn't do it. I didn't have anything to do with it, no matter what she says.
You're saying things you don't have to say, Miss Lee.
No, I'm not, because everything else you've heard is a lie.
What lies have I heard? Who lied to me?
I don't know. Don't you think I've spent all night long, every night, hearing what she said to you? But I believed him. I believed everything he told me.
Philip Roberts?
That's not his name. I know it isn't now, but I married him. You think I would have married him if I'd known that he was already married?
I guess you'd better tell me about it, Miss Lee.
I thought I was married to him. We went to Ensenada. Some man married us down there. It was in May. And I thought he was my husband all the time. I was going to quit dancing and we were going to go away. And then Sunday night, I heard them.
You were north of Malibu Sunday night?
Yes, he rented the cabin for us. But when I got there Sunday night, there was another car. I left my car and walked to the cabin, and then I heard them. She called herself his wife, and she used a different name. She called him Carl. I don't know why I listened. I wanted to run. But I stayed and listened to them argue. And found out that I wasn't married to him at all because she was his wife.
You don't have to tell me this.
Yes, I do. You have to know the truth. I heard her say she'd kill him. And then I left and started to walk toward the highway. And I'd gotten almost to it when I heard the shots. I wasn't near the cabin. I was almost to my car.
Miss Lee.
When I heard them,
Oh, I thought I was running away because she'd shot him over me.
Where is this cabin?
It's about 3. You know where it is. You've been there. You found him.
As far as I know, no one has been there. I haven't heard anything about a shooting north of Malibu.
You're lying.
No, I'm not. But we'll have to phone the police to check the story.
You're lying. You're still trying to trick me, but you can't.
Stop it.
You're lying because you believed her. Let go of me. Let go. I didn't do it. I was running away.
It took some time to digest it. I called the police and saw Susan Lee on her way back to Los Angeles with them, and then called Bruce Ewell. By the time I had driven back, he'd spent a half hour with the girl and had gotten the report of the police who visited the cabin. I was called to the Lockhart home for the second and last time, and together with the 2 prospective beneficiaries, I heard what the lawyer had to say.
Oh, it's a pathetic story. This man entered a bigamous marriage contract with Susan Lee. His first wife followed him to the cabin. She didn't know about the marriage, but she suspected something. At the height of the argument, she shot him and then turned the gun upon herself. Miss Lee was afraid to surrender as our witness.
They're both dead?
Well, I'll be...
Yes, but actually that's none of our concern now. This tortured girl did witness the accident, and in spite of her own problems, stopped to give what aid she could, which of course was none.
Did you get a statement from her, Mr. Ewell?
Yes, I'm afraid I did. Before a notary public, Susan Lee swore that the person who was alive at the time she viewed the wreck was Mrs. Lockhart.
I knew it. Hot dog.
Shut up.
Make him stop. Get him out of here. I can't stand it.
Here, Nagio, here. Let me take it to you.
It's really true?
Yeah, I guess it is, if Ewell says so.
Man, $200,000. And for what? For being born to the right mother. That's what I call profit on a small investment.
Yeah, I guess that's right.
$200,000. Why, I bet I can invest that and live like a gentleman the way I've always wanted to. I wonder how much this house costs. Nothing like this in Seattle, but I might show them a thing or two.
Expense account item 2, $356.50 miscellaneous in Los Angeles. Item 3, $218.45 transportation back to Hartford. Expense account total, $583.85. Remarks? As far as I'm concerned, the money went to the wrong beneficiary. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Remember, friends, for refreshment while you work, for enjoyment any time, chew a stick of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. There's lots of lively, real mint flavor in it to cool your mouth, freshen your taste, and sweeten your breath. And chewing Wrigley's Spearmint helps keep you fresh and alert. You feel better, work better, get more fun out of doing things. So indoors, outdoors, at work or play, always keep delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum handy. For refreshment while you work, for enjoyment any time, chew a stick of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, brought to you by Wrigley's Spearmint Gum, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd with music by Eddie Dunstetter. Edmund O'Brien can soon be seen starring in the Paramount Pictures production, Warpath. Featured in tonight's cast were Howard McNear, Hy Averbeck, Barbara Whiting, David Young, Virginia Gregg, Eddie Marr, and Mary Jane Croft. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is transcribed in Hollywood by Jaime Del Valle. The makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum hope you've enjoyed tonight's story of Johnny Dollar and that you're enjoying delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum every day. We invite you to join us again next week at the same time when, from Hollywood, Edmund O'Brien returns in another adventure of
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Bob Stevenson speaking. This is the CBS Radio Network. Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum, the refreshing, delicious treat that gives you chewing enjoyment, presents for your listening enjoyment Edmund O'Brien as...
Johnny Dollar.
Johnny, this is Louise Costa.
Oh, Louise. Say, that's funny. I was thinking of you and Lucky just this morning.
Were you?
Yeah, how are you?
I don't know, Johnny. That's why I called you.
What's the matter, Louise? Something about Lucky?
I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm getting tired of being a detective's wife.
Hey, wait a minute. That doesn't sound like you.
I know, but something's wrong. He's been on a case and he had to go to San Francisco, or at least that's what he told me. I haven't had one word, not even a postcard in a week.
That doesn't sound like Lucky. Maybe he's in trouble.
It's a divorce case, Johnny. Could I talk to you about it? Maybe I'm all wrong, but I'd like to know.
Yeah, sure, Louise. I'll be over in about an hour, if that's all right.
The makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum bring you Edmund O'Brien in another adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
For refreshment while you work, for enjoyment anytime, chew a stick of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. The delicious, long-lasting, real mint flavor of Wrigley's Spearmint cools your mouth and freshens your taste. The good, smooth chewing helps keep you feeling fresh and alert, adds enjoyment to whatever you're doing. So indoors, outdoors, at work or play, enjoy chewing Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. Wrigley's Spearmint. Refreshing, delicious.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to New York Police Department, Attention Homicide Bureau. I in no way expect you to honor this statement, but for the sake of convenience, I'll use my regular report form. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Lucky Costa matter. His real name was Frank Costa. I don't know where he'd picked up the Lucky tag, but he'd had it 5 years ago when both of us were on the payroll of one of the big detective agencies. He opened his own office at about the same time I went into insurance. I got to know him and his wife well, but not intimately, and I liked them both. So when she phoned with worry in her voice, I went over to see her. In a way, I wish I hadn't.
Now that you're here, I feel kind of silly and embarrassed.
Well, you don't have to talk about anything you don't want to, Louise. Why don't we go to dinner and a movie and forget the detective racket for a while?
That doesn't work. I've tried it. Johnny, it's not only this week that I haven't heard from him. Lucky's changed.
How?
Well, it's nothing I can explain to you. If you'd seen him every day, you probably wouldn't have noticed anything, but it's something that a wife could see. Thing with his eyes when he didn't know I was looking at him. Sort of a far away, as if he was thinking of something that I didn't have any business knowing about. And you know Lucky's never been like that.
Well, I guess any man keeps secrets when it's his job to.
Well, Lucky never has with me. He didn't need to. As far as his job went, he's always told me that it did him good to come home and talk things over with me. Even things he really wasn't supposed to talk about. It hasn't been that.
You think he's mixed up with another woman, don't you?
It started over a month ago, Johnny. I've been used to Lucky being away. You know that.
Yeah, I guess you'd have to be.
But like I said, I knew when things got different, when it was more than just being away from me.
You sure you aren't imagining things?
I'm not imagining that I haven't heard from him in all this time. That never happened before.
How long has this been going on, this change you speak of?
I've tried to remember exactly when I first noticed it. And I think it was one night about a month ago. I asked him what he was thinking about, and he sort of came to and said something that I don't remember now.
Did you press it any further?
A couple of times, and then I didn't anymore. Because it made me think he was hiding something from me, and I didn't want to think that. I kept telling myself that everything was all right. But now I know it wasn't.
Was he on a case a month ago?
Well, he was tracing some phonies. It doesn't have anything to do with work, Johnny. I know that. He'd traced phonies before. He'd done everything before. It wasn't work.
Well, I don't have a wife's viewpoint, but I know Lucky pretty well. Some things about him I know better than you do. It seems to me that if he was going to go wrong with a woman, he'd have done it a long time ago. We met some, you know.
Yeah, I've heard.
Does his brother still live here in town?
Yes, but I haven't phoned him.
Same address on Broad, wasn't it?
Yeah. Are you going to see him?
Yeah, I thought I might. You want me to check on Lucky, don't you?
I don't know what I want. Yes, I want to find out.
All right. I think his brother is the best place to start. The last time I'd been at the Broad Street address had been for the funeral of the Costa's mother. The house was a few years more beat up than it had been. Some old chicken coop stood empty in the backyard, and Joe, the brother, pulled up in an old car after I'd thumbed the doorbell 3 or 4 times and had started to leave.
I took the wife and kids over to the park so I could have some peace for an hour or so.
Yeah, I almost missed you.
I'm glad you didn't, Johnny. It's been a long time. How've things been going with you?
Fair, Joe. You?
A guy can make a living. But making it go far enough is another story. Hey, come in the house.
Sure, thanks.
I'm working over at Bricker's now. It's a better spot than the old job. Had one raise already and got another one coming up.
Yeah, that sounds good, Joe.
You still doing the same thing?
Yeah, still following people.
You, see much of Lucky anymore?
No, not for 6 months anyway. As a matter of fact, I came here to talk to you about him.
Yeah? What about him?
Well, I wondered if you'd spoken to him before he left for San Francisco last week.
No. I talked to Lucky for the last time, as far as I'm concerned. That was about a month ago.
What's the matter? Thought you two were okay, that you got along all right.
You're a pretty good friend of his, aren't you, Johnny?
Well, you know how it was. He and I just fell together when we were with the agency. Yeah, we're good friends. Maybe I see him only twice a year, but he's almost the only guy I've held on to.
Did he ever tell you about his first wife?
He was married before?
Yeah. Did he ever tell you about the year and 6 he spent in prison?
Joe, are you serious?
Yeah. That's the way Lucky is. He don't let his friends know anything about him that he don't want them to know. He's always been like that. There's always been 2 sides to Joe. One that you know about and one that you don't.
What about this prison term?
It was grand theft. It was over this girl that he married, his first wife. He stole some furs for her.
How long ago?
12, 15 years, I guess. Well, we're still living in Brooklyn. Lucky was a wild kid when he was 18 or so, and he still got some of it in him.
Who was this woman he married?
Her name was Hazel Mackey, and she called me about getting in touch with Lucky.
Oh? When?
That was about a month ago. That's when him and me had our showdown. I told him he was a dumb cluck if he saw Hazel again. I said, you got a new life now. You're amounting to something. You're married to a nice kid. But I could tell I wasn't getting to him. He was going to see her. I knew that. So I told him if he did, it was the end of him and me, brother or no brother.
You're sure he saw her?
Well, before he left that he would. She had some kind of hold on him back when they were married. And she still got it. What do you want with Lucky, Johnny?
Louise called me. She hasn't heard from him in a week, and she wants to know what goes. He's dropped out of sight.
Sure he has. I knew he would.
Where can I find this Hazel?
New York. She's got an apartment on 82nd.
You got the number?
Yeah. Come on in the other room. I'll get it for you.
This Hazel Mackey?
Yeah. Who are you?
My name is Dollar. I'm a friend of Lucky Costa's.
Oh, come on in.
Thanks. You know where Lucky is?
Not at the moment, no. Who are you?
I told you, he's been missing for a week. His family is worried. I'm looking for him.
He's on a case.
Is he working for you?
Yes.
What kind of a case?
I don't know that it's any of your business. I need a detective, so I hired him. Is that all right?
It would be if he were on the up and up about it, but he isn't. As far as his wife knows, he's in San Francisco on a divorce case.
Well, I can't help what he tells his wife. How did you get here?
His brother told me about you.
I guess his wife doesn't know. I guess that's why he told her he was going to San Francisco.
You know where I can reach him?
No, not for a while.
Do you think I ought to send his wife to the police?
I don't see why you should.
I will if I don't find out about the case he's on.
Hey, what's with this pressure stuff?
What's the case?
I needed a bodyguard.
What for?
I was engaged to a guy who was sent to prison. He was there 2 years, and I changed my mind about him. He's out now, and I'm afraid of him.
Who is he?
You know I don't like you. You got a lot of nerve. None of this is any of your business.
I wish you were right, but I've already stuck my neck out and made it my business. So if I don't find out these things from you, I'll find them out from someone else.
Yeah, guess you would. His name is George Myers.
What makes you think he's going to cause you any trouble?
Some of the things he told me when I went to visit him. It's hard to talk sense to a man who's been in prison that long. I tried to tell him how I felt, but he'd blow his top and make a lot of threats.
Where is he now?
I don't know. Been out a week. And Lucky's trying to get a line on him.
He hasn't contacted you yet?
No, but he will. When it's over with and we get things straightened out, why, then Lucky can go back to his wife. Now, if you approve, I'd just as soon you'd get out of here.
No, a few things don't figure. You answered the door buzzer not like a dame that's afraid of someone coming, but I suppose you're right. It's Lucky's business how he earns his money.
I'll tell him you dropped in.
It's up to you. Good night.
So long.
I put off telling his wife for 2 days because I didn't know how and because I didn't think it was up to me to tell her things she never knew about her husband. But on the third morning, it broke. The story made page 1, part 2 of all the New York dailies. The body of ex-convict George Myers had been found the night before. He'd been shot to death by what they called an unknown assailant. I phoned the brother, Joe Costa, and met him outside Bricker's during his lunch hour.
Hi, Johnny. What's up?
Well, maybe the local papers didn't carry it here. This one.
What about it? Who's this Myers?
Friend of Hazel Mackey's. She told me she hired Lucky to bodyguard her against this Myers.
Holy. You mean Lucky killed him?
I don't know, Joe. But it looks bad. Here, read this last paragraph. Myers went to prison on a robbery rap, but the money was never recovered. There's $200,000 floating around, Joe. I can't help wondering if this Mackey woman hadn't her finger on it.
Why do you have to tell me this, Johnny?
Because I couldn't carry it myself. I talked to Hazel. What she tells me puts the finger on Lucky. I wanted you to know because I'm going to have to go to the police with it.
This is going to kill Louise. You know that.
What can I do, Joe?
Well, it seems to me you could stop playing hero.
Now, wait, Joe.
You don't have to run to the police. If Lucky did it, let them find out. You don't have to tell
Joe.
them. Not for that no-good Lucky, but
Joe,
for me.
Joe, listen to me. If they get to Hazel Mackey and she tells them about talking to me, then what happens? Then I'm in trouble. I can't afford that, Joe. I've got to stay clean with the police.
Sure, stay clean, no matter what it does to Louise. That's the way it is, then, huh?
I didn't ask to get mixed up in it. I didn't tell Louise what I found out about him, but it's out of hand now, Joe, and there's nothing I can do.
Go ahead, then. Go ahead. Maybe some nice fat cop will pat you on the back.
Joe! Joe! That's our racket.
For refreshment while you work, for enjoyment anytime, chew a stick of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. When your mouth feels dry, when you're warm or tired, Wrigley's Spearmint is really refreshing. The lively, full-bodied, real mint flavor cools your mouth, moistens your throat, freshens your taste. And the chewing itself gives you a little lift, helps you feel your best and do your best. So for chewing enjoyment plus pleasant refreshment, chew delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. And now with our star, Edmund O'Brien, we bring you the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
I left Hartford for New York on the 110 that afternoon. When I got there, the later editions reported the usual rounding up of known criminals who were being grilled about the Myers shooting. And the closer I got to the apartment on 82nd Street, the rottener the whole thing looked to me.
Who is... Oh,
Come on, open up.
all right. What do you want?
Where is he now?
Lucky? I don't know. I told him to give himself up, but he wouldn't.
Did he kill George Myers?
Yes, the stupid idiot.
How did it happen?
Lucky had a room over at the Montclair, and George must have followed me over there.
You went across town so you could be with your bodyguard.
Yes,
And the man you were afraid of followed you.
yes.
You were either not very bright or not very scared. Go ahead.
Well, About 2 o'clock we came out, and George was waiting in the lobby. He followed us out on the street and started swearing at us. He took a swing at me, and then Lucky tried to stop him. He pulled a gun out of his pocket, and that's when Lucky shot him.
That all sounds very neat.
What do you mean?
Sit down. I've got a theory that I'll try out on you. When I get close, tell me. The $200,000 that never showed up after George Myers' arrest. For a split of that, Lucky agreed to kill him.
You're crazy.
You hire a detective as a bodyguard. Theoretically, he could kill this man you were afraid of and ride out of it on his license and a self-defense plea.
It was self-defense. George pulled a gun.
The police didn't find it. If it was self-defense, why didn't Lucky report it like he should have?
I wanted him to. We came back here and I begged him to phone the police.
What about the $200,000?
I don't know anything about it.
You mean it'll be hard to prove that you do?
I said I don't know.
I take it you haven't phoned the police.
No. I know I should, but I just can't do it to Lucky.
You know I'm going to call them, don't you?
I thought you said you were his friend.
Not that good a friend.
Oh, what can they do to me?
Hold you as a material witness while I try to get some proof together that you dragged Lucky into this.
Dragged him into it. I hired him. I told you that. I was afraid of George, and I hired him.
And he killed Myers in line of duty, ended in self-defense. Why didn't he turn himself in?
I don't know. I wanted him to.
You must have given him some reason for not doing it. What did he say?
Well, he said that everything was all ruined now and that he'd rather take a chance on getting away.
Why was it ruined if he killed in self-defense? I've had to do it.
I don't know.
Were you going to help him get away?
We didn't talk about that. He was like a crazy man, pacing the floor. And then he left about 3:30.
Where was he going?
He didn't say.
Was he going to get in touch with you?
Yes. He said he'd try to call.
Well, you won't be here to take the call. I want the police to hear your story. The officer who answered my call was Lieutenant Carl Belder. 2 uniformed men who were with him took Hazel Mackey back to headquarters, and he listened to my theory. We searched the apartment without finding proof of her holding any amount like $200,000. She had a small savings account, a small checking account, and a stub showed that she had paid Lucky Costa a week in advance. We waited the rest of the afternoon for Lucky to call, and he finally did an hour or so after dark.
Go ahead, Dollar. That might be him.
Johnny Dollar.
Who?
This Lucky? This is Johnny Dollar. Don't hang up, Lucky.
Why should I hang up? Hiya, Johnny.
I'm all right, Lucky. How are you?
Fine.
Yeah, I can imagine. What was the matter with you?
I don't have the slightest idea what you're talking about. How about you explaining yourself? What are you doing in my girl's apartment?
She's not lonesome. She's down visiting New York's finest. Why don't you use your head and come on in, Lucky?
You kidding? I like it where I am.
You still figuring on trying to run out?
Sure, it's worth a chance, don't you think, Johnny?
If you killed Myers in self-defense, why don't you play it that way?
Having us called trace, Johnny?
I hoped we wouldn't have to play games like that. I thought if I could talk to you, you'd come to your senses. Can I meet you someplace where we can talk it over?
No, thanks. You're a good guy, Johnny, but I think you might sell me out.
You've already been sold out. What's the matter with you?
You know, if positions were reversed, I'd give you a hand.
I wouldn't ask you to. Anybody gets himself in a mess like you're in shouldn't expect help. Now use your head, Lucky. Let's get this over with.
Sure, I'll meet you in Times Square. New Year's Eve, Johnny.
Lucky? He's gone.
You know him better than I do, but don't you think you pressed him a little too hard? Wouldn't he have believed you if you talked like you were going to help him?
No, he knows me better than that.
Well, that's a tough spot, Dollar. An old friend like that.
Well, he's still in New York. He won't get out now, will he?
Well, everything should be covered by now. Do you know him well enough to guess what he'll try?
I don't think so, because a killer isn't the guy I knew. His clothes are still in the hotel room. I don't think he'll try for them now. He's got about $200 in his pocket. I don't have any idea what he'll try, Lieutenant. I guess all we can do is wait. An officer was posted at the apartment, and Lieutenant Belder and I went down to headquarters. Under steady questioning, Hazel Mackey held to her story that she knew nothing about any $200,000, that she'd been afraid of George Myers, that she'd hired a detective in good faith to protect her, and that after Myers had been killed, she had pleaded with Costa to give himself up. It seemed apparent to me then, after having talked with him, that she had her statement well rehearsed and felt that if she stuck to it, there was no way for us to prove anything else. I stayed in New York that night and the next, waiting for something to break. When it came from Hartford. Joe Costa wanted to see me as soon as possible.
Johnny?
Yeah, Joe.
Come on in.
Oh, I got here as fast as I could. How's Louise?
Not very good. Sit down. I'm sorry about blowing up the other day,
It's all
Johnny.
right. I didn't blame you. It was a bad time for both of us.
You're right, Johnny. All I could think of then was he's my brother. But now it don't make any difference. He's no better than a rat that you got to trap. There's nothing to do but stop him.
You're right, Joe.
I had to quit my job over him. I couldn't take it the way the boys were looking at me. They wouldn't talk to me.
It'll smooth over. What do you want to talk to me about, Joe? Has he contacted you?
Yeah, he phoned me. He wants for me to give him some money so he can get away.
He needs more than money now. He'll never get out. What'd you tell him?
Well, I told him I didn't have any to give him. And that was the time I knew for sure that you were right about him. So when he asked me again, I told him I'd see what I could do about raising some. I told him to call back tonight. I did that so I could sell him out to you.
It was the right thing to do, no matter what you think. He wouldn't think twice about pulling you into this mess, Joe. And that's what he did. He asked you to be a party to the killing.
Yeah, I know that.
When is he going to call?
Sometime after 7 o'clock.
Does he want you to meet him?
Yeah, that's right. With $200. He's going to tell me where when he calls.
He's still in New York, isn't
he? Yeah, in Manhattan.
You want me to talk to him?
Yeah, if he gives himself up, I kind of figure they might take it easier on him.
It could be. That's a deal, Joe. I'll talk to him. I'd like to see him go in by himself.
Well, want a glass of wine while we wait, Johnny?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
This is some new stuff for my wife's folks. I took her and the kids up to their house to stay till this blows over. You'd think we were all criminals the way people treat us in this town.
The call came in about 8:30. The meeting place was a flat near the Bowery. The time was about 10 the following night. I was there at 5 minutes after. Hi, Lucky.
Oh, what's this?
Let me in. Nice place you got. You like it better than a home with a wife?
Shut up. So Joe sold me out, huh?
He gave you a break. He didn't call the police.
Did he send me some money?
No? Do you think you had any right to ask him to?
I need some dough, Johnny. I'm running short.
What about your girlfriend?
You can shut up about that, too.
A double cross, Lucky, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, double cross. A real good one. I got no beef coming.
You gonna let Hazel get away with it?
It's not worth a murder rap to square with her. You know who set up the double cross for her?
Who?
You did, Johnny. You stumbled into this thing and set it up for her.
Maybe she'll send me a gold watch. I saw her 3 days before you killed him, Lucky. If you knew I stumbled in, why didn't you pull out?
She didn't tell me about you until after I killed him.
Oh, that's the way it went.
Yeah. One little thing Hazel forgot. And she hoped it wasn't important. She hadn't wanted to bother me with it. But a friend of mine acted like he was suspicious of what we were doing. All it did was blow the whole thing sky high. I was going to cop a self-defense plea, but with you around, sniffing out the premeditation, I didn't have a chance.
That's tough, Lucky. I'm sorry it didn't work out for you.
Get off, will you? I came into this with my eyes open. I know what kind of an operator she was. I'm not beefing. There was a chance to make $100,000, so I took the jump, so I lost.
What now, Lucky?
I was going to ask you. You want a drink?
No, thanks.
You won't drink with me, huh?
Not right now, Lucky.
Afraid I'll slip you a Mickey?
I wouldn't put it past you if I was in your way.
You are in my way. Aren't you, Johnny?
Everybody's in your way now, the whole world. You can't make it, Lucky. You won't get out of town.
How much you got says I won't.
Start making sense. You've been on the right side of enough of these things to know you're finished right now.
No, I'm not.
I want you to get a shirt and tie on, make yourself look halfway human, and go to headquarters with me. They may give you a break if you give yourself up.
Save it. Quit talking about it.
What are you going to do?
I'm not sure now that Joe sold me out. I'm in a bad spot, Johnny. I know that. I'm not ready to quit yet.
Joe didn't sell you out. He wanted to give you a chance to give yourself up just like I do. We're still your friends, Lucky. We can't stand by you if you won't do the right thing.
Then I'll go it alone.
When?
What do you mean by that?
What do you think I'm going to do, Lucky? Sit here with you until you get ready to leave?
I sort of hope you would. It'd make it easier if you did.
Well, I can't. I came here to give you a break. I've made my offer. Come with me. Give yourself up.
Oh, I can't do that.
Well, then I'm leaving. I'm telling the first cop I see to come and get you. You're going to put a gun on me, Lucky?
Yeah. I can't let you leave.
Then you'll have to use it. You want me to come up a coward in front of an old friend like you?
I'm sorry, Johnny. You got nothing to lose? You won't get blamed if I get out of here.
I can't let you, Lucky.
I'm not bluffing.
I'll have to see. I'm leaving. I'll ask you once more to go with me.
Don't try it, Johnny. I'll kill you if you start for the door.
That's your privilege, Lucky, because you're already a killer.
Johnny.
Yeah?
I'm telling you, don't. Johnny, I'm telling you. Johnny, I told you.
Well, Dollar?
He won't give up, Lieutenant.
Yeah, we'll take him then.
He's armed and he's drunk. But take it easy on him if you can. He could have killed me, and he didn't. I realize that the confession as set down in this report is worthless as evidence, and as far as proof goes, you are still unable to charge Hazel Mackey for her part of the conspiracy. But after Frank Costa died trying to fight his way out of the flat, I want to suggest that she be picked up again and grilled until she breaks. She's as guilty as he was. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Remember, friends, for refreshment while you work, for enjoyment any time, chew a stick of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. There's lots of lively, real mint flavor in it to cool your mouth, freshen your taste, and sweeten your breath. And chewing Wrigley's Spearmint helps keep you fresh and alert. You feel better, work better, get more fun out of doing things. So indoors, outdoors, at work or play, always keep delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum handy. For refreshment while you work, for enjoyment any time, chew a stick of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, brought to you by Wrigley's Spearmint Gum, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd with music by Eddie Dunstetter. Edmund O'Brien can now be seen starring in the Paramount Pictures production, Warpath. Featured in tonight's cast were Virginia Gregg, Gloria Blondell, Hy Averback, Peter Leeds, and Sidney Miller. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. The makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum hope you've enjoyed tonight's story of Johnny Dollar and that you're enjoying delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Gum every day. We invite you to join us next week at this same time when, from Hollywood, Edmund O'Brien returns in another adventure of...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Bob Stevenson speaking. This is the CBS Radio Network.
It's time now for Edmund O'Brien and...
Johnny Dollar.
This is Mrs. Case, Mr. Dollar.
Oh, yes, Mrs. Case. Thank you for calling back.
Of course. Do I understand that my husband's insurance company sent you to talk to me?
That's right, Mrs. Case.
But who reported my husband's disappearance to them?
They have to keep their eyes open, especially with a holder of a policy the size of your husband's.
You aren't keeping things from me, are you? Nothing has happened that I don't know about.
I'd have no reason to hold anything back, Mrs. Case.
Please tell me the truth. He hasn't been found hurt or anything.
No, he hasn't been found yet. But I'd like to talk to you to find out what I can do.
Edmund O'Brien in a transcribed adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account. America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Tri-State Insurance Group, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Leland Case Matter. Expense account item 1, $24.80, transportation from Hartford to New York City. I phoned Mrs. Leland Case as soon as I got in, and when she returned the call, I made arrangements to meet her at her... I phoned Mrs. Leland Case as soon as I got in, and when she returned the call, I made arrangements to meet her at her apartment. But before I went over, I checked in with Missing Persons Bureau to get what background they had.
Mr. Dollar?
That's right.
I'm Sergeant Dilko. Sorry to keep you waiting, but I was busy on another file. You're interested in one on Leland Case?
That's the man, and I'd like to start from scratch. All I know about him is that he carries too much insurance to lead a peaceful life. That isn't a generality.
Oh, what is it?
I wondered if you knew. He was married before, and according to the scandal sheets, he thought his first wife tried to kill him. Something about sleeping pills and a fire, but there was no proof, so all he could do was make a public statement and divorce her.
Oh, no, we didn't know that. When did this happen?
About 5 years ago.
Where is his first wife?
I don't know, but I'll try to find out.
Let us know. Here's what we have. Age 47, description, etc. Occupation, owner and manager of a statewide line of grocery stores known as Case Incorporated. Reported missing by Mrs. Leland Case day before yesterday. She said he'd been missing 2 days and knew of no reason why he should leave of his own volition. Knew of no enemies or any reason for suicide. I've got 50 more just like it.
I suppose you have. Did he say he was going anyplace the last time Mrs. Case saw him?
Not that she remembers. He kissed her goodbye at 10:30 in the morning and failed to pick her up at 7 that night to go to dinner at the home of Mr. and Mrs. Herbert Bennett.
There isn't any luggage or missing clothes.
Not unless he had some no one knew about at his office where he maintained a bachelor apartment.
Oh, there's that.
Yeah. We haven't really gotten to work on him yet. We've got circulars and so on out on him, and in a day or so we'll be able to spare a man or two for personal work. This has been a busy year for us.
I wonder how that works, how 1 year can be worse than another.
I'm not sure. I think it's the general condition of the world myself. That is, for the ones who do just drop out of sight. You know, people will put up with a lot of boredom and unhappiness during normal times. But when there's uneasiness and unrest, their sense of values change. Their sense of moral responsibility. They say, why put up with this life along with everything else? Let's have a fling. More divorces this year, and more marriages.
Everybody running to take a big jump someplace, huh?
The whole world.
Yeah, I guess that's right. What about his current wife? What's she like?
I think she's a girl it would take a long time to know. She's a lot younger. No more than 26 or 7. So the obvious reaction is to doubt her sincerity about a rich, older husband. She's darn good looking and thinks she could tell a lot of men anything and they'd believe her.
It wouldn't interfere with your procedure if I talked to her?
No, not at all. The more work I can get you to do, the better.
Well, okay, Sergeant. Thanks for the help. I'll see what she has to say. When I was admitted to the Case apartment, I understood what Sergeant Dolko meant. She was beautiful, and her outstanding feature was part of her personality, too. A pair of hazel eyes whose candid stare never left yours while you were talking to her. It was almost dark when I got there, and she led me to an end of the living room where a big window looked out at the lights that were snapping on all over Manhattan.
I know I should appreciate what the insurance company is doing, Mr. Dollar, but sometimes I'm almost afraid of what will come to light.
What do you mean, Mrs. Case?
Leland's reasons for wanting to go away.
I reported him missing on an impulse, and I wish I hadn't. Not for a while, at least.
Then you aren't worried about him?
I should have given him more time to explain it, to write or phone. Maybe there's a very logical explanation. But I'm mostly sorry because of the stories in the newspapers.
I didn't read them.
They make our life sound so sordid. Just because he's been married before and because he was called a playboy when he was younger. Ours has been a very normal and happy marriage. Not at all what they made it seem.
You must have been worried about him when you went to the police.
Yes, I was. But I'm inclined to let my imagination get hold of me.
Imagination about what?
About his being in an accident or being taken ill or something like that. And when 2 days passed, I couldn't stand it anymore, and I called the police.
Had you made any other inquiries? Called anyone else?
Yes, I called our lawyer the next day.
The day after he didn't meet you for dinner?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
He told me he didn't have any idea why Leland should do a thing like that, but he said not to worry. Then when another day passed, I called him again, and he said the same thing. Not to worry, that he was sure everything was all right.
What's his name, this lawyer?
Paul Frater.
How well do you know him, personally, I mean?
Oh, hardly at all. He's been here at the apartment a few times for parties, and I've talked to him on the phone, but that's all.
What about your husband's other business associates? Did you know any of them?
No, not well. I've only been married to Leland for a little over 2 years. He's always said that he wanted our life separated from his business life.
Yeah.
I think I know what you mean. You wonder if Mr. Frater and the others would keep things from me if Leland wanted them to.
Do you think they would?
Yes, I do. I think Mr. Frater was. He kept telling me not to go to the police and that everything was all right. But then when I'd ask him how he knew, he wouldn't say.
What did he say?
That the publicity wouldn't be good. I did anyway, because I felt that I couldn't believe anybody.
I have an idea you turned to the police in anger, Mrs. Case.
I told you I was sorry that I did.
You also told me that you were almost afraid of what might come to light. Was there trouble between you and your husband?
Not that I know of. I mean, I love my husband, and if his feelings toward me changed, I wasn't aware of it.
Yet you went to the police because you were angry.
No. I was worried and confused. I didn't know what to do. Yes, I was angry because of the way Mr. Frater talked to me. I thought he was lying to me. But if I hadn't talked to him, I would have gone to the police anyway. I think any wife would.
Yeah?
Oh, I don't know what I thought. I wish I hadn't. And if there were a way to stop it, I would.
Do you really want it stopped?
No. He's been gone for 5 days, and I want to know where he is. I have a right to, haven't I?
Sure.
You think I'm cheap and mercenary, don't you? That I married him for his money, and I want to hang on to him.
I didn't say that, Mrs. Case.
You don't have to. Everybody thinks that. Maybe even Leland sometimes. Because I'm young and because of the way I look. I can tell by the way his men friends act around me and the way their wives look at me. Nobody believes I love him. And I wish I didn't. I wish I could turn into what people think I am.
Well, I'll either see you again or I'll phone you tomorrow after I talk to Paul Frater.
I'm sorry I had to keep you waiting.
Oh, it's all right, Mr. Frater.
I seem to have lost an hour this morning that I can't catch. Mr. Dollar, wasn't it?
That's right.
From Tri-State Insurance. Sit down.
Thanks.
How in the world did your company get caught up in this farce?
I think they have informers in the Bureau of Missing Persons.
Missing persons. Rot. As if it isn't bad enough to have a suspicious, grasping wife dogging your every step, now the insurance company is tagging along.
Well, that's the picture so far. You know where Mr. Case is?
No. But if I did, I wouldn't tell you. All of us. All of his friends have been after him to get away from everything here in the city and take a complete rest.
That's what you think he's doing.
Of course it is. And you'd be doing the poor chap a favor if you'd leave him alone.
His wife said that she phoned you and asked if you knew where he was, Mr. Frater. She didn't say that you told her anything about arrest.
I didn't tell her because she's one of the things he's getting away from. When I do tell her the truth, it'll be in the form of divorce papers.
She didn't mention any divorce either. She said they were happy.
Yes, she would. The word happiness is just about the most indeterminate word you'll ever find if you take the trouble to analyze it. Ask 10 people what is necessary to the state of happiness, and you'll get 10 answers. In short, she may have been happy, but he wasn't.
I take it you don't like her.
I don't like leeches. Throughout his life, Leland Case has been the object of scheming women. When he was young, there were scheming mothers, and from then on, the daughters, without prompting. He married the first time against our advice, and it ended in near tragedy. Then this brainless doll stalked him down, and he did it again. We told him from the beginning that she was a huntress. Well, it appears that he's finally come to his senses.
Uh-huh. Who are the we you speak of?
His friends, his business associates.
And, though it's none of my business, do you base your thinking on the theory that the girl is too beautiful to be good, or is there something definite?
How long have you known her, Mr. Dollar?
I met her yesterday.
Then you'll admit that we know her better. She's a cheap beauty contest type from upstate with a high school education.
Okay. What else is he resting from?
Work. He's been completely exhausted mentally for the past 8 months. He had to stop or he'd have collapsed. He's no figurehead, you know. He really heads that corporation. He carries more responsibility than a single mind is equipped to carry.
Where would he go then, Mr. Frater? You must have an idea of Florida, the Caribbean, out west someplace. Where?
I really have no idea, Mr. Dollar. I really don't.
It must be quite a distance, or he would have read about his disappearance and at least phoned.
Yes, that's true. Possibly even Europe.
Well, the police are covering all the steamer and airlines.
That stupid, spiteful woman, the police. Is there no way to stop this idiocy?
If you as his lawyer don't know, and I don't. As long as his wife says he's missing, he is. I talked with more of Leland Case's friends and advisors that day, and their statements were pretty much the same as Paul Frater's. I followed Case's last known movements from his office to his club, where he'd arrived at 5 p.m. for a steam bath. He'd been seen leaving there an hour or so later, and there the trail ended. The witness couldn't remember whether he'd been carrying anything like an overnight bag, and nobody knew how much money he'd had with him. It was hard to tell how much nationwide publicity the disappearance was getting, but in New York and the neighboring states, the papers carried the story in every edition. But that day and most of the next passed before anything developed. I was just leaving my hotel room for dinner when the phone rang. It was Mrs. Leland Case calling to say she had to see me in her apartment as soon as possible.
I had to call you. I wasn't supposed to, but I didn't know what to do.
Sit down.
I wasn't supposed to talk to anybody, but I had to. I couldn't stand
Sit
it.
down. Now, come on, sit down. Try to make sense. All right. What happened?
A man phoned me. Leland's alive, but they're holding him. I've got to give him some money.
Now, wait a minute. When did this call come in?
Before I phoned you, about 5 minutes, I think. I don't know how long before.
Slow down now. What did he say, exactly?
He said... He told me Leland was alive and all right. He said he'd be safe if I turned $10,000 over to them. They'd let him go then. But if I talked to the police, he'd be killed.
How did you answer him?
Oh, I hardly remember. I went all to pieces. I just said, yes, I'd do anything. He wanted to know how fast I could get the money, and I said I didn't know. And then he said if it wasn't by noon tomorrow, to forget it. I can get it. There are some things in the safety deposit box.
Wait a minute.
And there's quite a bit in the checking account.
Wait a minute. Did he tell you where you were going to hand over the money?
No. Oh, he said someone would call me again.
When?
Tomorrow morning, 11:30, he said.
All right, we have some time then. We'll try and figure out what we're going to do. Before I left her that night, I felt I had convinced Mrs. Case on a few salient points. For one, that we'd be working at cross purposes with the police if we tried to make the contact without them and therefore be hand in hand with the criminals. For another, that if she were watched, as she probably would be, and acted as though she were raising the ransom, I could line up the police without any suspicion being cast on her. And finally, that by the record, kidnappers who received their extortion money according to their... And finally, that by the record, kidnappers who receive their extortion money according to their exact demands are the first ones to kill the kidnapped victim, since by that time he is the only evidence against them. I alerted Sergeant Dulco that night, and the next morning, while Mrs. Case was out getting what she could of the $10,000, I alerted Sergeant Dulco that night, and the next morning, while Mrs. Case was out getting what she could of the $10,000, I went to the apartment and waited for her. I was standing next to her at 11:30 when the phone rang. Go ahead, I'll stand here. Go ahead, I'll stand here. Hold the receiver away from you.
Take it right to line 15 in.
I alerted Sergeant Dulco that night, and the next morning... And the next morning, while Mrs. Case was out getting what she could of the $10,000, I went to the apartment and waited for her. I was standing next to her at 11:30 when the phone rang. Go ahead. I'll stand here. Hold the receiver away from your ear. I want to get what I can.
All right. I'm so scared.
Go ahead. Don't try to be anything else.
Hello?
It's 11:30. This is about your husband again. Did you raise the money?
Not all of it, but it's over $8,000.
We said 10. What about the rest?
I couldn't do it. You wanted me to be careful, and I couldn't get the rest without answering questions. You didn't give me much time.
How much is it?
I can give you $8,600.
There's some way you can make up the difference?
It's such a little bit more. I could sell some of my things if you'll give me more time.
How much time?
It would take another day.
That's too long. We want to get out of this part of the country, so we'll give you a break. You get your man back.
How is he? Is he all right?
He's okay, and he'll stay that way. As long as you do what we say.
I will. What do you want me to do?
Okay. I'll tell you, and we'll get this over with right now. You know where they're fixing up that church on Park Avenue?
Yes. Yes, I know what you mean.
Well, there's a bus stop right there. You be there at 10 to 12 on a dot and have the money inside a newspaper that's folded up. You got that?
Yes.
It'll only be a few minutes, and somebody will meet you. We know you because we've been following you all morning. You got the paper rolled up like you're through reading it, see?
Yes.
And this person will come up and say, are you through with that paper, lady? I want to find out who won the game. Got that?
Yes, I'll remember.
You just give him the paper and walk away. You got that?
Yes. And my husband, when will you let him go?
Just as soon as we get back to where he's at and count the money.
All right. There's nothing else I can do.
That's right. And there's one last thing. Your phone's going to start ringing right after you hang up. Let it ring. It's going to be me, so you won't call out. I want you in front of your building in 3 minutes, so you don't stop the phone. You'll be followed from then on. Now, let's get started so you get your man back, huh?
Well, he hung up.
Yeah, you too.
Did you hear all he said?
Yeah, enough of it. They threw us a curve. It's not usually as simple as this. I won't have time to call the police in.
What's going to happen?
I'll do what I can. Get started now. You've only got a few minutes. I'll leave the building by the other entrance and go up Lexington. Come on.
You'll be there.
I'll try to be by the time you get there. Here's a newspaper. If you can stall a little, do it, but don't be late. When you get there, don't look for me.
I won't.
It's stupid pulling a wide-open daylight contact like this. So stupid it's smart. By the time I'd elbowed and pushed and run my way to the church corner, I was so winded I thought everybody on the street could hear me breathing. But I was there a little over a minute before I saw her picking her way through the crowd, face ashen gray and the folded newspaper held as though it were something alive and dangerous. When she stopped, I moved over as close to her as I dared, and I listened for the words she was waiting for. And finally, out of shoppers' chatter of Macy's and Gimbel's and so on, they came.
You through with that paper, lady? I want to find out who won the game.
What? Oh, yes. Yes, here.
Hey, wait a minute.
Huh? What do you want? Hey! Let go! Let go! Let go! Let me go! Come on!
Haven't talked to him yet, but I've got 2 cars out checking the address he gave the booking sergeant.
What name did he give?
Lamson, Eugene L. We haven't checked that out either.
There must be at least 2 more to do all the talk. There must be at least 2 more to do all the tailing and covering he talked about on the phone.
Well, we'll get a call from the radio cars. Oh, here. He's in here. Well, you don't look like you're going to enjoy a steak for a while, do you?
I can wait.
For a long time on a federal rap?
You think so, but I ain't worried.
Where is Leland Case?
I got news for you. I don't know where he is.
Is he alive?
I don't know that either. I read about him in the paper and figured I could nick the wife before they found him.
Sure.
You don't like that? That's all you got of me, and that's all you're going to get.
I wouldn't count on that. Use your head, Lamson. You know how high kidnapping comes. I've known people to get a break if they cooperate.
I don't know nothing about a kidnapping. I'm telling you straight.
You mean he's dead?
I mean what I said. I don't know nothing about it.
Who was in it with you?
Nobody was in nothing with me. I did it alone.
Then you know where he is.
I don't know where he is. I tell you, I read about it and figured I'd try to cash in. I ain't fool enough to kidnap nobody.
I don't know what you're trying to pull, Lamson. It's a little late to play stupid.
You told the arresting officer that all you did was ask a lady if she was through with her paper. Why didn't you stick with that story?
I knew I couldn't make it whole.
Then let's have the rest of it. Who contacted Mrs. Case yesterday?
I did.
Who followed her this morning?
I did. I read about her husband and cut her picture out of the paper and went over by her place and stuck around till I saw her. And yesterday I called her on the phone and told her she could get her man back.
Where is he, Lamson?
I don't know. I just told her that to see if it would work. Almost did.
Drop it, Lamson. You phoned her this morning at 11:30. I was there.
Sure I did.
Who followed her from her apartment building to that Park Avenue corner?
I tell you, I did all of that. But I don't know nothing about no kidnapping.
Who stood by the telephone connected to the cases to keep it busy?
Nobody did. I phoned her from just on a block this morning, from a booth. And when I told her I was going to call back and for her to leave it ring, I just left the receiver hanging and went out to follow her.
You know, a lot of you guys have got the idea that if you take a story like this and stick with it and swear to it and repeat it, that there isn't anything anybody can do to break it down.
Yeah. You can't break this one down because there ain't no other. I don't know nothing about this guy but what I read in the paper.
We'll just let you soak for a while, Lamson. The FBI is on their way over. I understand they're pretty good with stubborn guys like you.
I'm telling you, I don't care who comes. That's the straight story, and nobody can make me say nothing else. It was just an idea I had. I got it after I read about it in the paper that this guy
That's enough, Lamson. We'll get back to you. You work on your story while you wait for it.
I don't have to work on it. It's true.
You had enough, Dollar?
Too much,
It may sound crazy. Maybe I am, but it's the truth. I just figured it might work, and it almost did. I had the money right in my hand.
I think it was then that we began to feel that when and if we found Case, we'd find him dead. I don't know about the sergeant, but I began to feel responsible, as though he might have been killed because we'd picked up Lamson and the accomplices he wouldn't name had known that things had gone wrong. We waited in Dolko's office for the report from the radio cars investigating Lamson's address. When we got it, the picture was as blank as before. He'd moved into the place 2 weeks before. Nobody that was questioned knew where he'd come or...
Take around the carpet.
I think it was then that we began to feel that when and if we found Case, we'd find him dead. I don't know about the sergeant, but I began to feel responsible, as though he might have been killed because we'd picked up Lamson and the accomplices he wouldn't name had known that things had gone wrong. We waited in Dolko's office for the report from the radio cars investigating Lamson's address. When we got it, the picture was as blank as before. He'd moved into the place 2 weeks before, and nobody that was questioned knew where he'd come from or anything about him. In the meantime, the experts had gone to work on him, and by 10 that night when I left for my hotel, he still hadn't changed his story. That's the way the day ended. Johnny Dollar.
Sergeant Dolko.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, Sergeant. Anything new?
There was a message on my desk when I got here to call a hospital up near White Plains.
Huh?
I talked to a doctor who says there's a patient up there that answers Case's description.
What?
It seems to be a semi-religious place of some kind in the country, sort of removed from reality. This man was brought there by somebody who found him wandering on the road with his clothes torn off and in pretty bad shape from beating. He gave his name as White.
Huh. I don't get it. You going to follow it up?
Yeah, I'm asking permission of the local authorities to come up, and I wondered if you'd like to go with me.
What about Lamson?
He's asleep. So's everybody that questioned him. They worked all night without getting him to change a word.
All right, Sergeant. Let's go to White Plains, then. You want me to cab over, or will you pick me up? The hospital, it seemed, practiced really basic charity. Nobody who came or was brought to the door was turned away. According to the doctor, the patient called White was recovering nicely from his physical symptoms, but his mental condition was such that he refused to talk to anyone, refused to do anything but lie in his bed and stare at the ceiling. We'd come armed with photographs of Leland Case, so we knew that's who he was the moment we walked into his room.
Well, hello, Mr. Case. I wish you'd have let people know where you were. You've caused everybody a lot of worry.
What name did you call me?
Case. Leland Case, isn't that your name?
I don't know. I don't know who I am.
I think we do, Mr. Case.
Leland Case. That's not a very nice name. Why did you come here?
We've been looking for you. You've been missing for over a week. My name is Dolko, and this is Mr. Dollar.
Glad we found you, Mr. Case.
Leland Case. That name doesn't mean anything to me.
We have some photographs here. See if you recognize them.
Mm-hmm. They're of me. They're of someone who looks very much like me. I have no memory of anything before I was on a train that I left in the city near here.
White Plains?
Oh, yes. I called myself Mr. White because I remembered that.
You don't remember getting on the train?
No, I remember getting off late at night and wondering why I had come and where I should go. I remember walking down some railroad tracks because it seemed so good to be in the country at night. And then these men attacked me, and I believe they took everything I had, if I had anything. And someone brought me here. Who is Leland Case?
You're a pretty successful man in the state of New York. You have money and a big, thriving business. You have a wife.
A wife?
Yes, the girl in one of the pictures. This one.
This girl is my wife?
Yes, and you also had a doctor who told you that if you didn't stop working so hard, you'd have a mental breakdown.
Well, this is awfully confusing to hear you tell me that this stranger, that I am this Leland Case, this is no joke, is it? Are you sure that's who I am?
Yeah, we're sure. As soon as you feel strong enough to go back to New York with us, you can talk to people who know you. Your wife, for one.
My wife?
Does the name Paul Frater mean anything to you? He's a lawyer.
Paul Frater. No, it doesn't mean anything to me. The doctor tells me I've recovered from my injuries. I wonder when he would let me go.
He told us that if you felt like it, you could leave today. It would be good for you.
Well, then, if my clothes are wearable, I think I'd like to try and get up.
All the way back to New York, he asked questions about the Leland case. All the way back to New York, he asked questions about the Leland case he'd forgotten. When we got there, it was early evening, and by arrangement with Paul Frater... Paul Frater was waiting with Mrs. Case at the apartment. There were a few moments of strained silence while he looked at them with no show of recognition.
And you tell me that this is my wife.
Leland, darling.
And Mr. Fraser.
Why, I'm your attorney. You and I have been like father and son for years.
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Fraser.
You don't remember?
I'm afraid I don't.
Leland, darling, I'll take care of you. I'll make you remember.
What about the business? That'll snap him back.
These gentlemen have told me about the business, this huge, complicated enterprise. Well, I can't believe that I, no matter what my name is, ever controlled anything as large as that.
Well, you did, Leland. You're a genius in organization.
A genius? Well, that sounds awfully dull.
Leland, the company needs you.
Mr. and Mrs. Case and Mr. Frater, I think the problem from here on is up to you. Sergeant Dilko and I are only in the way now.
Well, we want to thank you for all that you've done.
We're glad that it's turning out this way. Goodbye, all of you.
Goodbye. And thank you.
Mr. Dollar. Thank you.
Just so long as Mr. Case will be all right now.
I think I will, Mr. Dollar. Yes, I really think I will.
I couldn't tell because the light wasn't too good, but I'm almost sure that Leland Case winked at me. If he did, it means that his memory is no longer lost, but just stashed away for the day he wants it. And I have an idea that it won't be the company that's there when he decides to find it. But as I say, the light was bad, and I'm not sure. Expense account item 2, same as item 1. Item 3, miscellaneous, $446.53. Expense account total, $496.13. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
This is Dan Cubberly inviting you to join us next week at this time when Edmund O'Brien returns as...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Bing Crosby has been on his summer holiday, but beginning October 3rd, Bing and his crew will return to this, their regular time. So join in the fun with Bing Crosby at this time on Wednesday, October 3rd. From Hollywood, it's time now for Edmund O'Brien as...
Johnny Dollar.
Roger Stern, Dollar.
Hello, Mr. Stern. What can I do for you?
A job. Be in my office at 8 tomorrow morning and bring a packed suitcase.
Sure.
Just like those. You're going to Cuba.
Oh, hot this time of year.
Very.
See you at 8, Mr. Stern.
Edmund O'Brien in a transcribed adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account. America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Intercontinental Indemnity and Bonding Company, New York City. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Cuban jewel matter. Expense account item 1, $7.15 mileage and incidentals between Hartford and New York City.
Morning, Dollar.
Morning, Mr. Stern.
Sit down.
Thanks.
Here it is. This company holds an insurance policy with a Mrs. Lenore Carter. $800,000 on her jewels.
Uh-huh.
Jewels were stolen from Mrs. Carter's safe 3 months ago. Police haven't been able to turn up a thing.
And you've got to pay off, huh?
By Monday.
What's in Cuba?
We got a tip. A man in Cuba knows where the jewels are. He was supposed to have been in on the robbery.
Okay. What's his name and where do I find him?
William Carnes. He's in jail in Havana.
In jail?
Yes. Awaiting extradition this weekend.
Well, if he's being brought back...
Not for the jewel theft. He's wanted in this state on a federal rap.
Oh.
Police don't even know he was mixed up in the Carter job, and we're not telling them.
Oh?
When he gets back, he's bound to get at least 10 years for the federal rap.
And you want to know where he stashed the jewels before they put him away?
Exactly. He's lived in Cuba on and off over a period of years, and I believe it's reasonable to assume that the jewels are somewhere in Havana.
He does a stretch, and when he gets out, he picks up $800,000 in jewels. Might be worth 10 years.
If we tell the police now and they question him, he'll never open his mouth. He's got to do the 10 years anyway. It's your job to find out where the jewels are before he's extradited.
When are they sending an officer down to pick him up?
Today or tomorrow. You've got to beat them there.
I'll try.
There'll be a bonus if you succeed.
Like I said, I'll try. Expense account item 2, $8.90 airfare between New York and Havana, Cuba. When I arrived, I checked through customs and got a tip-hungry cabbie to take me to one of the better hotels, where I checked in, put on something cool, drank a tall glass of something cooler, and headed for the local Bastille where Stern had told me William Carnes was interned.
Someone to see you, Senor Carnes.
Well, I was just making a pot of tea.
Just call when you are finished, senor.
Thanks. Hello, Carnes.
You bunco fugitive?
No, I'm not a cop. I don't think they'll be here to extradite you until late this afternoon or tomorrow morning.
Okay. Who are you?
I'm a reporter.
Yeah?
Name's Dollar. Sent down here to get a story.
You are?
I understand they want you on that mail job.
You do, huh?
No story?
No story.
And, move. See, I stick you again. See, I move.
What's that?
I don't know.
That is Senor Carnes. Bueno. Open the door, pig. See.
Hey, what is this? What do you want?
You, senor. I want you.
What's the idea of the knife?
The idea, senor, is to slit this pig's throat if he should try to stop us.
He held the knife at the police chief's throat while he motioned for Carnes to step out. He was dressed in what used to be a white linen suit, and he stood about 5'4", weighing in at around 200. On top of his head, covering his shaggy black hair, was a straw hat, and stuck in his fat lips was a long black cheroot. Between the smell of garlic and cigar smoke, I began to feel what it might be like to come face to face with a bilious dragon.
Who sent you?
A friend. You will go now, senor, eh?
Okay, thanks.
Por nada. Now get in the cell, pig. You.
Huh?
Si, you. Senor Dollar, you will go too, no?
I took a look at his knife, thought about the gun under my arm, then I took a look at his eyes. They made a panther look like the Mona Lisa. Well, I went. Besides, I didn't want to lose Carnes. As we passed through the squad room, I saw the 2 guards lying off to the side on the floor.
One is only unconscious. The other one tried to make noise. I slit his throat.
Yeah. He followed me out on the street and climbed into a car. As he drove away, he smiled, a mouthful of yellow teeth, and waved one of his stubby arms. I looked around for some help, but the street was nearly deserted. I was about to go back into the jail and release the police chief when I looked down the block and spotted Carnes ducking into a building. I went after him. The sign over the door read Cantina El Gallo, so I slowed down to a sprint and went in. The barroom was small and dark. Posters all over the wall advertised everything from the government lottery to bullfights and jai-alai. Carnes was nowhere in sight, so I walked over to a long bar and a lazy bartender moved a wet bar rag slowly up the counter to me.
Some for you, Mac?
You American?
Yeah, but I got sold on siestas.
Where did the guy go came in here just before I did?
I didn't see nobody.
Look, I'm going to make this as painless as possible. A guy named Carnes just romped in here. Whether you know him or not, you couldn't have missed him. He didn't go back out the front door.
I don't think I like you.
I affect some people that way. Where did he go?
I don't know what you're talking about.
The guy who just came in here.
Beat it.
You know, I think you're going to take your siesta early today.
Yeah?
A long one, but it's going to be uncomfortable.
I told you to beat it.
When you tell me where I can find Carnes.
I got a lot of bottles back here.
Swell. Line them up. I'll see if I can shoot the corks out.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
Carnes went up to see Maria. Door at the top of the stairs.
I went up the stairs 3 at a time and forgot to knock. And there, standing in the middle of the room, was the best reason I could think of for upholding the good neighbor policy. South of the border, north of the border, any way you looked at it. The geography was lovely. See? Where's Carnes?
Don't you think it would have been more polite to knock?
I forget my manners when I'm in a hurry. Where's Carnes?
I don't know anybody named Carnes.
That isn't what the bartender said.
Whatever he said, I don't know anybody named Carnes.
The bartender also said that Carnes came up here just a little while ago.
Senor, you don't look like a man who believes everything he hears.
I don't, generally, but I saw Carnes come into the bar. He didn't come out. Now, where is he?
I have no idea.
I think you're lying.
Please leave, senor.
Sure. Where's your back door?
The way you came in.
Bad luck. Where is it?
Behind the curtains. Goodbye, senor. I said goodbye, senor.
I had trouble convincing the bartender. He said Carnes came up here. Okay, I still need Carnes. Do I convince you too?
How do you propose to convince me, senor?
Right now, time's important. $100 worth.
I'm sorry, senor.
I could be a bully.
You might twist my arm.
I might.
I'm quite stubborn.
Good.
You're not twisting very hard.
My mind was on something else.
My lips?
A bonus for bringing in Carnes.
Yes?
200.
Interesting.
But not completely?
No.
3. That's all my company can afford.
Very generous.
How well do you know Carnes?
He was the best one around.
Uh-huh.
Was.
Where can I find him?
$300.
$150 now, just to make sure you give me the right address.
The Avenida Porfirio, número 3.
Thanks. I checked to see if my hair was on fire and left the room filled with smoke. Downstairs, I found out where to find the Avenida Porfirio and left. Avenida Porfirio is about 8 blocks away and a dead-end street. I found number 3, a tired building, slumped down in the middle of a lot of other tired buildings. I tried the door and found it locked, so I braced myself against it and as quietly as possible tore it off its hinges. I sprawled in just in time to see Carnes dive for a dresser drawer. He stopped cold when he saw the .38 in my hand.
Okay, don't shoot.
Not unless you make trouble.
That's a big gun for a writer.
I've got funny writing habits. I even collect stolen property.
Oh.
Yeah, $800,000 in jewels. Where is it?
We could make a deal.
We could, but we won't. Come on, get it. I'm in a nasty mood.
You can get at least $500,000 at a fence. Stuff's easy to break up. They'll never trace it.
Do I have to get rough?
No. It's in the bedpost.
I'm running out of patience.
Okay. Here.
Gracias, senor.
Huh?
I will take those, senor. Now, remain facing the window, Mr. Dollar.
You're the guy who let me out of jail.
See. How could I find what I want if you are locked in that filthy jail, eh? You had better drop your revolver, Mr. Dollar. Bueno. Now you can kick it over to me, eh? Gracias. Now you. Did yours.
I don't get it.
Of course not. I do. Now. Pronto.
Okay.
Gracias.
But you said a friend sent you to get me out of jail.
See, a friend of yours, not mine. I think he have good reason for wanting you out, so I follow. Pretty good reason, I think. Now I be rich.
Why'd you let me out?
I was supposed to let you out, too. Now, I do not think you should come after me for a while. I shoot pretty good. Adios, and once more, gracias.
Carnes and I both went for the gun in the dresser drawer, and it was like bargain day in Klein's basement until Carnes decided to pick the bedpost and start me on the siesta habit.
We'll return you to yours truly, Johnny Dollar, in just a moment. Tomorrow night, on most of these same CBS radio stations, the FBI in Peace and War goes to work on the Inside Story, an exciting bout between makers and breakers of the law. You'll enjoy G-Man Shepard's latest case, in which the inside story is one of slick swindlers come to grips with the nation's #1 law enforcement agency. Tomorrow night on CBS Radio at the Star's address. Now, with our star Edmund O'Brien, we bring you the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
The hunk of metal bedpost had put me down and out. When I finally came around, the room was dark and cold. I pulled myself up on my elbows and tried to focus my eyes. My head ached from the scalp wound over my right ear, and through a window, I could see the moon pushing its way over the tops of the buildings across the street. I felt awful. I'd lost the $800,000 in jewels, William Carnes, and enough blood to make a vampire do a schottisch. I finally got to my feet, stumbled out of the building, and managed to find my way back to my hotel, where I washed up and put in a call to Roger Stern at the Office of Intercontinental Indemnity and Bonding.
Yes, Dollar. Have you located the item?
I was in touch with the party you sent me to see. He led me to it.
Good.
Now, a big bundle of garlic that spoke broken English and carried a large gun is now in possession of the item.
What?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I'll do my best to locate it.
You mean it was taken away from you?
To the point of a skull fracture.
Where's Carr?
There was a slight jailbreak. He's loose and probably trying to find the little guy who helped him escape. The little guy's got the item. I'd like to know who gave you the tip on Carnes.
I can't divulge that.
I think it's necessary. Either this little guy knew Carnes had the item or he knew he was going to lead him to it. He busted him out of jail and then followed him. He even knew my name, and when Carnes questioned him, he said that he was paid to release us.
What did this little man look like?
Oh, 5 feet 4 or 5, about 200, used a knife on the break, cut a jailer's throat. Now, look, you better tell... Wait a minute. What is it?
The police, Senor Dollar. Open the door.
What is it?
Police, I'll call you back.
All right, watch yourself.
I intend to.
Come on, Dollar, open up.
Okay. Hello, Chief.
Senor Dollar.
You took your time.
Yeah.
This is Sergeant Evans from the New York Police.
How are you?
Not too happy. I came down here with extradition papers for William Carnes.
I had Carnes until he split my head. I can't help you now.
Who was the guy who helped Carnes escape?
I have no idea.
I think that is a lie, senor.
I think not.
He knew your name. He called you Senor Dollar.
I still don't know who he is.
Look, you got into that jail representing yourself as a newspaperman.
I'm an insurance investigator.
Oh, for what company?
Freelance. Right now I'm working for Intercontinental Indemnity and Bonding.
What did you want to see Carnes for?
Old claim.
Tell me about it.
Call Intercontinental. They'll tell you about it.
I want you to tell me about it, Dollar.
This is a confidential assignment.
And William Carnes has escaped.
You think I helped him?
I don't know.
Oh, sure. They hired me and said go down to Cuba and spring William Carnes out of jail.
What about that guy with the knife?
What about him?
He knew you.
He knew my name.
You're splitting hairs.
I have to. I'm confused.
The pig with the knife killed one of my guards.
Then go get him. You're supposed to be a policeman.
Look, I think you'd better tell me everything that's happened.
Sure. Sit down. I told Evans everything that had happened from the time that I left the jail, leaving out 2 details, Maria, the girl in the El Gallo, and the jewels. I simply told Evans that I'd tailed Carnes to his apartment, and there we had a fight.
Now, what did you fight about?
I don't think he wanted to go back to jail.
He's lying, Sergeant. He knows more than he's telling.
And while you're sitting around with your big fat mouth open, William Carnes and the guy who killed your jailer are running around loose.
I do not like the insult, senor.
Look, I got my head caved in trying to catch Carnes for you. The insult goes with the way I feel. If you don't like it...
Hold it! Now, take it easy.
Well, that's a little tough. If you don't think so, try bleeding for an hour.
Okay, I'm going to check with New York. You stick around, Dollar. If you try to leave Cuba, that headache's going to get worse.
The Cuban police chief followed Sergeant Evans out of the door, and I gave them 10 minutes head start before I left the hotel and headed for the El Gallo. The bartender gave me a dirty look that was right in character with his surroundings, and I pulled myself up on a bar stool. Maria was on the other side of the room, moving between the crowded tables and singing something in Spanish about how they put the blame on Maine. She worked her way over to the bar, and when she spotted me, she smiled and used her beautiful brown eyes to point the way up to her room. I smiled back, slid off the bar stool, and went up the stairs at the rear of the cafe. In a few minutes, I heard the applause, and then her footsteps.
Hello.
Hello. I made myself comfortable.
Bueno.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I will do the same.
That's a pretty dress.
But very uncomfortable. I'll change. I'll be out in a moment, huh? There's something to drink on the shelf by the window. Did you find it?
Yeah. How about you?
Please. I'm sorry there's no ice.
Just a formality. Well, it makes it more comfortable, but in the long run, you get comfortable anyway. Well?
I feel better.
I'm sure you do. Here.
Gracias. And how do you feel?
I'm with you.
Did you find Senor Carnes?
Yes. Yes, I owe you 150, don't I?
Later.
Okay.
I still do not know your name.
Dollar. Johnny Dollar.
You make a good drink, Johnny.
Just straight whiskey?
And strong. And you made it. And that makes it a good drink.
Have you seen Carnes since I left you?
No. Why do you want him, Johnny? Are you a policeman?
Not a bit. I'm an insurance investigator. What do you know about Carnes?
Oh, very little. He came to Havana about, 3 months ago. I met him one night downstairs, and I saw him quite frequently after that. As I told you this afternoon, he was the best one around.
He ever tell you anything about himself? About his business? How he lived?
No, very little. He seemed to have money. Not a great deal, but enough.
You have any friends?
No. I never saw him with any. He seemed always to be alone. He liked it that way.
What about you?
Must I explain?
You have.
I was the only person he spent any time with. Then he was arrested. I believe it was for something he did up in the United States.
That's right. At any time, do you remember seeing him with a short Cuban, weight about 200 pounds?
No. Johnny, must we talk about Carnes?
It'll bother me if I don't get it off my mind.
Oh, then by all means, talk. I don't want you to be bothered all evening, Johnny.
All right. But have you ever seen a little man that fits that description?
If I have, I don't remember.
Dirty white suit, straw hat, mean eyes, carries a long knife?
No, Johnny. A man like that I would forget anyway.
Okay.
Johnny, you look discouraged.
It happens when you run into a wall.
I should take that literally, no?
No.
But you have hurt your head. Not a wall?
A bedpost.
Oh.
Your friend Carnes, he was swinging it.
Let me see.
Sure.
Oh, Johnny. Poor Johnny.
Yeah, poor Johnny.
It hurts.
I'd almost forgotten about it.
Did I help you to forget about it?
Immeasurably. But it still hurts a little.
Then you shouldn't think about it.
I'll need some help.
Of course.
Huh? I'd figured.
We don't have to answer it.
Go on, Dollar.
I think we do if you don't want it broken down. Only a policeman sounds like that.
Oh, Johnny.
Honey, do I look happy?
All right.
Yeah?
I want to talk.
You could tell me Stalin and MacArthur just got married and I'd only look bored.
All right, let's go.
How'd you find me?
You were tailed from the hotel.
Johnny.
I'll be back.
Don't make book on it.
Only when I've got a winner.
I checked with New York.
And?
Intercontinental Indemnity has no record of having hired you.
What?
I said they have no record on file of having hired one Johnny Dollar to do anything for.
Roger Stern hired me. I've done a couple of jobs for him in the past.
Well, the company thought that might have happened.
Why didn't you ask Stern?
He's out of town.
Well, I talked with him just before you came over to my hotel.
Dollar, we checked. He told his company he was leaving town for a couple of days. Now, come on. You're under arrest until we do talk to Stern.
Don't you know where he went?
We're checking. He didn't say.
Oh, swell.
Now, let's go. I want to know all about this job for Intercontinental.
Wait a minute.
What's the matter?
Carnes.
Where?
He passed by the front door. Come on.
You're pulling something
Don't
up.
be stupid.
All right, where?
There.
Look out!
Evans!
Go get him.
Evans!
Go get him.
I went after Carnes. For 3 reasons I went after him. I was confused, scared, and sore about a good cop named Evans dying in a gutter. Carnes was a block ahead of me when I spotted him again, running fast and looking back over his shoulder. I slammed myself against the building as he tried again. I gave it back to him. He was still going, but he was dragging it. I'd caught him with one, and he stumbled his way into an alley. I forgot about being cautious and went in after him. The alley was too dark to see him, so I put my back against the alley wall and started edging my way forward. Give it up, Carnes. You're through.
Okay. I'm hit bad. Get me some help. Practically cut me in half. Get me to a doctor.
You just killed somebody.
I'm dying. Doctor, huh?
When you tell me a few things.
What? Please, get a doctor. I'll tell you.
Why were you busted out of jail? Who wanted you out?
The guy I was in on the Carter job with. He put me up to it. Gave me the combination of the safe.
You got the jewels and headed for Cuba. You didn't split with him.
No. I found out he was after me, so I turned myself into the law on an old rap. He had me busted out, so I led him to the jewels.
It wasn't the little guy with the knife?
No. He hired him, too, I guess.
Who is he?
Stern. Roger Stern. Works for an insurance company.
Yeah, I know.
Please. Look.
Okay. You get your doc. Can you stand up? Carnes? No, I guess you can't. You're not ever going to stand up again. Well, there it was. Roger Stern, the man who'd hired me, was the man I was after. So I got to a phone and I called the Havana airport. The next plane from New York was due in an hour, and because of my phone call to Stern, it was a good bet he would be on it to protect his interests. I grabbed a cab, and in 15 minutes, I was sitting in it across the street from the airport. The place was alive with Cuban police, but they weren't looking for Stern. They were waiting for Johnny Dollar to try to leave Havana. An hour and 5 minutes later, my patience paid off when Roger Stern walked through the front doors and climbed into a cab and headed south with my cab right behind him. We drove like that for about 40 minutes until we reached the outskirts of town and stopped on a dirt street fronted by an adobe building. My cab pulled up at a safe distance behind, and I got out and watched Stern walk up to one of the buildings and knock on the door. Someone let him in, and I went around back to see if I could find an unlocked window. I did. I could hear voices coming from the front of the place, so I crawled in and picked my way through the darkness.
But, Senor Stern, I do not know what you are talking about.
You know what I'm talking about. $800,000 in jewels.
800? Oh, senor, where would I get...
Stay right at that table.
You don't have to point no gun at me. I did what you paid me for. I got Senor Carnes out of jail so that Dollar could follow him.
Dollar called me last night. He said you took those jewels.
Oh, senor, I think maybe this Dollar was lying. I think
I
maybe...
want those jewels.
I do not have them, senor.
I warn you.
You do not warn me, senor. I do not scare of you.
You better scare. You wanted for murder.
See? And what are you wanted for? I cut a man's throat, senor. You and Khan steal the jewels. It seems to me we are both wanted.
I'm going to get those jewels.
No.
Then you do have them.
See, I have them. But you're not going to have them.
I'm going to give you 10.
I told you I do not scare by you. I do not scare by nobody.
1.
You do not kill me.
2.
You kill me, you go to jail.
You're wanted for murder. I'll be helping the police. 3.
What about Khan, senor? What if he tells the police?
If he does, I'll be in South America. 4.
Without the jewel?
No. 5.
But, senor, you need money.
You're going to give it to me. 6.
You do not have the insides to kill me.
7.
Senor, why do we not be practical?
8.
Half for you, half for me.
9.
I should get something. I got them for you.
10.
Okay.
Where are they?
In my hat. Hey, you look surprised.
A little. Take it off. Throw it in the middle of the floor.
Si, senor.
Don't anybody move.
What's it?
It happened fast. Stern spun around to face me, and Juan kept reaching for his hat. Stern pointed his gun, and I thought I was going to have to shoot him, but Juan took care of it. As his stubby little arms went past his collar, it came up with that long knife. He'd thrown it, burying it to the hilt between Stern's shoulder blades. Then he went for the gun. The little fat man was lying on his back where 2 of my shots had knocked him. He was as dead as he could get, and his eyes were staring up at the ceiling where the last of his cigar smoke still clung to the dusty beams. His straw hat was pushed back, and 800,000 in jewels had spilled out of his leather bag inside and was spread on and around his fat face. When the authorities finally straightened it out, it went something like this. Stern needed money. He contacted Carnes and gave him the combination to Mrs. Carter's safe. Carnes got the jewels all right, but he didn't split. He headed for Cuba, but Stern found him and contacted the little killer who turned out to be one Juan Guiardo. Stern then contacted me, and you know the rest. Juan got greedy like Carnes, and everybody got dead for it. Expense account item 3, $300 in payment for services rendered by one Maria, I forget the last name, but she was very helpful. Item 4, $216.73, hotel bill and miscellaneous. Item 5, same as item 2, plane fare back to New York. Item 6, same as item 1, mileage to Hartford. Expense account total, $708.83. Remarks? I have saved Intercontinental Indemnity $800,000, and Mr. Stern was still an employee when he promised me that bonus. If you think I've earned it, please forward it to my address in Hartford. If it takes more than 2 weeks to clear, I am returning to Cuba for a vacation, so you may send it to the Cantina El Gallo. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and was written by Blake Edwards with music by Eddie Dunstetter. Edmund O'Brien can now be seen starring in the Paramount Pictures production Warpath. Featured in tonight's cast were Ted Osborne, Jack Crucian, Barney Phillips, Nestor Paiva, Lillian Bayeff, and Stacey Harris. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is transcribed in Hollywood by Jaime Del Valle. This is Dan Cubberly inviting you to join us next week at this time when Edmund O'Brien returns as...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Defense is your job, my job, the job of every American. To stay free, to be strong and secure, our country needs the help of every citizen. Defense bonds provide that help. They help to make America strong financially. They help to curb inflation, and they make the individual family more secure. Defense bonds strengthen the military front, the production front, and the economic front. And just as important, buying United States defense bonds helps you by providing you with a safe, sound, profitable investment. Don't forget, defense is your job, too. Buy United States defense bonds. Inspector Hearthstone of the Death Squad attempts to solve a particularly grim killing tomorrow night. An adopted daughter is the victim on the eve of her engagement party. Her fiancé and family are logical suspects. A loss of memory complicates the case. Plan to listen tomorrow night for Inspector Hearthstone of the Death Squad on most of these same CBS radio stations. The address again? Why, we'll sing it.
CBS. B for the best.
F.
Yes, yes, yes. The star's address is CBS.
And remember, Rayburn and Finch tie a string around your sense of rhythm every Friday night on the CBS Radio Network. Bing Crosby has been on his summer holiday, but beginning October 3rd, Bing and his crew will return to this, their regular time. So join in the fun with Bing Crosby at this time next Wednesday, October 3rd. From Hollywood, it's time now for Edmund O'Brien as...
Johnny Dollar.
Philip Martin, Johnny.
Fine, what have you got for me?
Mr. Benny Waxman's insured with Columbia.
When did he die, and what's wrong with the way he did it?
He's very much alive, and his business isn't. He owns delicatessen. We insure that, too. It's burned out.
When did it happen?
Last night. We don't know whether Waxman did it himself, but the fire department said it was started deliberately.
Police holding Waxman?
Not yet. No evidence. Better get down here, and I'll give you everything we've got.
I'm yours after a shave and a shower.
Edmund Roland O'Brien in a transcribed adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Columbia All Risk Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the protection matter. Expense account item 1, $32.56, train fare and incidentals between Hartford and New York City after I received from you the necessary information concerning Benny Waxman. I arrived in New York at 3:30 in the afternoon and made my way through a heavy rain to 1078 East 105th, where I found Benny Waxman in a small apartment. Lieutenant Parkinson of the 15th Precinct was there also.
Yeah, Mr. Waxman's in. What do you want him for?
Johnny Dollar, I represent Columbia All Risk.
Insurance?
On Waxman's store.
Who is it? Guy named Dollar from the insurance company. Come on in, Dollar.
The insurance company?
Yeah, you know, the reason you started the fire.
I had nothing to do with it. I keep telling you.
Over and over he keeps telling me, and over I keep telling him he's a liar.
A liar I'm not.
My name's Johnny Dollar, Mr. Waxman.
How do you do?
We can't pin it on him yet. Some kind of a bomb.
I ain't got no store anymore.
Yeah, sure he ain't. Like the stuff they used in the war. Not a big explosion. Nobody heard an explosion. But when it went off, it burned good.
Incendiary?
Yeah. Don't know how he got it, but we'll trace it.
Incendiary? Of course you don't know how I got it. I didn't get it.
How much was the place insured?
$20,000.
You're not going to get it, Waxman.
Look, Lieutenant, I don't care no more. I don't care. Do you hear me?
You will. I'll make you care.
I didn't start it.
There was a man killed in that fire.
What? I didn't start it. I didn't kill nobody. I wouldn't.
People lived over the store, 3 apartments. An old man didn't get out. Your company won't have to pay a red cent, Dollar, because I'm going to prove Waxman started it.
Why would I burn down my store? I make a good living.
Tell Mr. Dollar how much money you've got in the bank. You hear me, Waxman?
$600.
That's not much for a guy who makes a good living, is it, Mr. Dollar?
I told you a dozen times.
He told me he gave $5,000 to his daughter.
It's the truth.
You checked the daughter?
That's a little tough. We can't find her. Used to live here with her papa, but she's just disappeared, and Papa doesn't know where she went. Do you, Papa?
She went on a trip, Mr. Dollar.
A vacation?
Yeah, I gave her the $5,000 for a vacation.
And he doesn't have any idea where she...
I don't know where she went.
He just gave her $5,000 for a little vacation. It broke him, but his daughter needed a little vacation.
Don't care anymore. I tell you, I don't care. Mr. Dollar, tell your company I don't want the insurance money.
You don't get out that easy.
I don't want out for nothing.
Look, you're on a spot. You figured it was a cinch. So many guys like you, Waxman, figure it's a cinch and forget about guys like me. I want you for a fire and a killing, and I'm going to get you.
I'll say it forever. I did not do it. I'll say it till they take me to my grave.
That doesn't give you much time. Well, I've got to be going.
I'd like to look at that report, Lieutenant.
Yeah, sure. Come along.
No, I'll check with you later. I want to talk to Waxman.
Sure, 15th Precinct. I'll be around until they find out where he got that bomb.
Right.
You're loose till I get something, Waxman, but do me a favor, huh?
What is it?
Try and leave town. I'd love it. See you later.
Yeah.
Mr. Dollar, go back and tell your company to forget it. I don't want the insurance money.
If you didn't have anything to do with the fire, you're entitled to it.
I'm going to leave this town when I can. Open a business somewhere else. Another city if I'm lucky.
If you're not guilty, why not take the money?
Because I cannot prove I am innocent.
What are you afraid of?
What?
I said, what are you afraid of? It's pretty obvious you're afraid of something.
I'm not afraid. I'm nervous. Policemen, the fire, and everything.
That $5,000 for a vacation is pretty weak.
Oh, please, Mr. Dollar, I let your company out of all the claims. They don't have to pay me nothing. Now, please, don't ask me any more questions.
That cop's out to get you.
Look, the law I believe in. If they convict me of something I did not do, then perhaps it is in payment for something I did to break the law.
What?
I can't explain. Now, please, Mr. Dollar.
Okay. Look, Mr. Waxman.
Good day, Mr. Dollar.
I hadn't noticed. I left the building and went out on the street. The rain was coming down harder, so I turned up my collar and started to walk. I couldn't stop thinking about Benny Waxman and this crazy, mixed-up story. A guy who burns down his store with an incendiary bomb is smart enough to have a better story. The $5,000 he'd given his daughter for a vacation, that was wrong. making himself look guilty by telling me to forget the claim. That was wrong. He was scared, not of Parkinson or me, but of something that was mixing up his reason. Maybe I was wrong, too, but I was going to find out. The 15th precinct was on Madison. Lieutenant Parkinson was in his office.
Hello, Dollar. Yeah, you look wet.
I walked.
I'll take off your coat.
Thanks.
Well, sit down.
Thank you.
Did you have a talk with Waxman?
Nothing I couldn't tell you in 5 seconds.
Yeah? What do you think?
I'm surprised.
And what?
I didn't come here to insult you.
You think he's innocent?
I think there's a lot more to it than just a fire and a killing.
Isn't there always?
I think he's scared stiff.
So do I.
A guy who starts a fire...
Has a better alibi. You want some coffee?
Yeah, sounds good.
That should be. My wife gave me the electric pot so I could have my coffee on duty. Says I drink too much of it, but she gave it to me anyway. Here you are. Waxman didn't start that fire. Is that strong enough?
Tastes pretty good.
Guys who burn down their business do it 2 or 3 different ways.
Not with an incendiary bomb.
I've got to ride him. I tried to be nice to him, tried to get it out of him, but he's too scared.
Of what?
Well, now I have to guess. There's a protection racket here that covers every independent store in the city. It's the tightest, best controlled organization I've run up against. So tight that we've been trying to break it for a year. 2 other stores have gone up this way, but the owners are so scared they won't say a thing.
Scared for their families?
It's the best thing to be scared for.
Waxman's daughter.
Yeah. I don't know how she fits. I don't know how the $5 grand fits.
What do you expect to gain by making him look guilty?
Long shot. He won't say anything, but maybe one of his friends will. Maybe they'll say something.
If they've been scared this long,
He's got one friend, a very close friend, Angelino Giuseppe.
Business?
Yeah, delicatessen like Waxman. Angelino hasn't got a family, but he got beat up last year. Wouldn't make a complaint. He's scared, too. But he's only got himself to worry about. Maybe if he thinks his best friend is in line for a murder rap, he'll give us something to go on.
Why don't you arrest Waxman? Make it look like he's really in trouble.
And I'll do that when I have to. I think his daughter is mixed up in it some way. Most of her clothes are still in the apartment. Maybe Waxman will be contacted. I want to be around when he is.
Kidnapping?
I don't know, Dollar. But a gang that can put this much fear into people might do anything. Waxman's been beat up a couple of times himself, never pressed charges, but he's been pretty indignant. From what I can find out about him, he's not the type to pay for protection. Became a citizen 2 years ago and believes in what he had to learn to become a citizen.
Well, maybe the 5,000 went to the gang.
Yeah, it's possible. His daughter only got in town a month ago. Before, they could only work him over. With the daughter here...
But if he paid them the 5,000, why burn down his store?
I've only been guessing. I haven't got the answers. Oh, excuse me. Parkinson. Yeah. Yeah, I know you. Okay. How do you like that?
What?
It paid off. That was Angelina Giuseppe. He wants to see me.
Great.
You want to come along?
Yeah, sure. Hey, you make pretty good coffee, Lieutenant.
I get lucky sometimes.
We left the precinct and grabbed a cab. Parkinson didn't want an official car in case somebody should be watching Angelino. We cut across town, and 20 minutes later, we were walking through the front door of Angelino's delicatessen. A small, broad little man with a bald head moved around the counter and walked up to see us.
Hello, Lieutenant.
Hello, Angie.
New man?
Johnny Dollar, insurance investigator.
Mr. Dollar?
Hello, Mr. Giuseppe.
What do you want to see me for, Angie?
Well, it's about Benny.
Oh, what about Benny?
You're gonna arrest him?
That's right.
You think he burned down his own store?
I know he did.
What about you, Mr. Dollar? Do you think Benny burned down his store and killed that man upstairs?
I've seen the evidence, Mr. Giuseppe. I think so.
You'll bring me all the way over to ask me that, Angie?
No, Lieutenant. Look, if I tell you something that maybe shows you that Benny don't burn down his store...
What?
Well, it's maybe going to make a lot of trouble for a lot of nice people.
They'll get protection.
I could get killed.
Not while I'm around, Angie.
Well,
Come on, Angie. If you got something, give it to me. I was on my way over to pick up Benny. Now, if you've got anything that can save him, let's have it.
Well, I can't prove that Benny did not burn down his place, but I think I can tell you who did.
Who?
Them guys. Them guys who come around once a week and collect the dough.
Tell me about them.
Well, you remember when I got beat up last year?
Yeah.
Them guys have done it. They make us all pay them protection. And if we don't, we get beat up or our families...
Who are they, Angie?
Well, I don't know their names.
What's the matter?
You better get out.
Two guys crossing the street.
Yeah, that's them. You better get out. They got the guns.
Those are the guys who beat you up?
Yes, the police. So look, you better get out.
All right, now listen to me, Angie. Act like we're customers.
But they got the guns.
Do what I tell you. Dollar.
I'm all right.
Okay, here they come. Now try to act like nothing's wrong, Angie.
Okay. I try, only...
And give me about 8 slices of the Swiss there, will you?
All right.
Angie.
Oh, yeah, I'll be right with you.
Just the envelope. We don't want no cold cuts.
Hello, Red.
Cop, look out! Oh, no.
Parkinson.
What about Angie?
I told you.
Shut up. Get an ambulance.
Ambulance?
The phone, you idiot. Step on it. Come on.
All right.
How is it? Is it bad? Parkinson, is it bad?
I can't feel much. Must be.
Let me look.
What about the two?
Hello.
They've had it.
Give me an ambulance.
Listen.
Hurry up.
One with red hair.
Yeah?
Name's Dillon. He used to work for Dutch Fisher.
Hello.
Dutch Fisher.
Listen, I got
Help
to have
send
an
him
ambulance.
up.
87
He isn't a...
95th Street.
And
Yes.
Yeah?
87,
got to get
hurry up.
whoever
No. It was a
sent.
Parkinson.
The ambulance is he...
Yeah. It sure is.
We'll return you to yours truly, Johnny Dollar, in just a moment. Beginning next week, listen for Edmund O'Brien as yours truly, Johnny Dollar, Saturday nights on most of these stations. At this time, next Wednesday, the great Bing Crosby Show returns to most of these same stations, with Jane Wyman as Bing's first guest of the season. Another premiere next Wednesday, the Red Skelton Show will also be back on CBS Radio. Remember, starting a week from tonight, Bing Crosby returns to his usual time, and Red Skelton moves his lunacies to Wednesday on CBS Radio. Now, with our star Edmund O'Brien, we bring you the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
It was still raining when they carried the lieutenant out. I explained everything to a nice young cop named Brenner's. Angelino and I got into Brenner's car, headed for the 15th precinct.
How long had you known Parkinson?
I just met him a few hours ago.
Yeah, we've been trying to crack this protection racket for a year. Looks like maybe we've started.
The hard way.
Yeah. I'll need your statement, Tom.
Sure.
I'm scared. I'm really scared.
Nothing to worry about, Mr. Giuseppe. We'll give you all the protection.
Protection?
Yeah, I guarantee it.
For me?
Sure.
Well, what about all the other people? All of my friends? Well, what about the Benny?
Parkinson didn't think Benny started that fire.
I know. I was assigned to check on the bomb.
Now, why do you think we ain't said nothing before, huh? Because they threaten us. They threaten my friends. They tell them if they say anything, they're going to hurt their families.
What about the bomb?
Nothing. Didn't have much to go on in the first place.
You lied. The lieutenant lied. He told me Benny wasn't going to be arrested. That's why I was going to tell him about those guys that beat me up.
Somebody had to talk, Andy.
Oh, sure. I talked, and look what happened. What do you think is going to happen to Benny now because I talked, huh? They got his adult. I ain't going to tell you nothing more.
What about Benny's daughter, Angie?
No. I ain't going to get to nobody in no more trouble.
The trouble's happened, Angie.
Well, I don't care.
If they're going to make it tough on Benny, they'll do it now.
Just because I called the lieutenant. Just because I want to help Benny.
The only way you can help Benny now is to tell us what you know.
No. There are too many other people. My friends.
Yeah, and we can save them. Tell us what you know, and we'll get the people who make the trouble.
No.
Okay. When they drag Benny's daughter out of the river, I hope you think about it.
Well, you think I want it? You think I want to see Benny's little girl Look, I got a thing about all the oil.
Listen. You think this won't happen again if we don't get the men behind this?
I don't know.
Look, Angie, you got beat up last year. Benny got beat up twice. Stores have been ruined. Benny's place was bombed, and an old man burned to death upstairs.
Well,
Parkinson and 2 killers are on their way to the morgue. Every one of you kept your mouth shut for a year, and look what's happened. You think it's going to get better?
Okay.
What about Benny's mother?
They got her.
Who?
I don't know. The only ones I ever saw were the 2 guys who got killed a little while ago. Benny came over to my place one night. He was in an awful condition. He was crying. He said he had to tell somebody. They got his Louisa.
Did he say why they got her?
Benny hated them. He didn't ever pay them any money, so they beat him up twice, but he still didn't pay them. He said they didn't have no right, but he wouldn't go to the police because he was scared for me and my friends. Then Louisa came here from Detroit to Michigan, and they took her and made him pay $5,000 to get her back.
Why did they burn down his store?
To teach the rest of us a lesson. Those 2 guys who were killed, that's what they said. They said if I didn't pay them every week, that would happen to me and anybody else that didn't pay them.
Did they send Benny's daughter back to him?
Tonight they were supposed to send her back to him. Will they? Do you think that they will now?
I don't know. We drove our way over the wet pavements that reflected the sun as it sank into the river behind us. At the precinct, Brenner's got our statements and took me down to the mug file to look at pictures of Red Dillon and his partner.
That's Dillon.
1, 2, 3. 6 arrests, 2 convictions, 1 in this state.
Kansas City import?
Yeah, most of the arrests that city. That boy.
I don't know anything about the other guy. I think he's new.
When will you get a report?
That shouldn't be long.
Parkinson said Dillon used to work for Dutch Fisher.
Yeah. Here's Fisher's package.
He's still doing time.
Yeah. Convicted June 1943. Sentenced to state prison July same year. 10 to 20. Armed robbery.
That's him out.
Branners? Yeah. Blue Fleischman? Oh, okay. FBI kickback, Thanks. That's the other one.
Lou Fleischman. That name's on Fisher's card.
Yeah?
Convicted with Lou Fleischman.
Wait a minute. Remember that rat Fisher got sent up on his big payroll job? Here it is. Lou Fleischman. Convicted 1943, 5 to 10. Released July 26, 1951. No wonder I thought he was a new boy.
Looks like the gang stuck together.
There was somebody else in that holdup. Had an alibi, if I remember. Never pinned it on him.
Might be our boy.
I can't remember him.
It should be easy to check.
Yeah, let's find out.
It was beginning to fit. The 2 strong-arm boys had worked together in Kansas City for a man named Dutch Fisher, who was still doing time, and there was a 4th member of the gang still unaccounted for. In a half hour, Brenner's had the information.
His name's Biolotti. I remember now. George Biolotti.
We took the information down to the mug file and dug out the package on George Biolotti, the 4th member of the Dutch Fisher gang. Brenner's took one look at his picture, and his mouth fell open.
Well, I'll be...
What's wrong?
George Biolotti.
What about him?
He's in this city. I know him.
Well, let's go talk to him.
No.
Now, look. Benny's daughter is still missing. That remark I made about the river could become a fact.
George Biolotti is George Bivens. That's the name I know him by. Came to this town about 7 years ago. Runs a respectable nightclub.
Then pick him up.
On what?
Suspicion.
He's clean in this town.
Well, you've certainly got enough in this record to have a talk to him. There isn't much time.
If we pick him up, that girl won't live 5 minutes.
Yeah. Where's his nightclub?
52nd Street, the Yellow Parrot. Why?
Well, somebody's got to talk to him. And in your official capacity, you'd never get the answers you wanted.
What makes you think he'll give them to you?
Because I kind of liked Lieutenant Parkinson.
Yeah, something you want?
Yeah, George Bivens.
Got an appointment?
No?
Who are you?
Johnny Dollar. Now tell Bivens I want to see him.
Sorry, you gotta have an appointment.
I'm going to spoil if I stand around much longer.
Spoil rotten for all I care. You ain't gonna see Bivens.
You get excited like this all the time?
Yeah.
You'll ruin your stomach.
I don't think so.
You don't? Skeptic? Hey, you at the piano. Which way do I go to find Bivens? Thanks.
Who are you?
Name's Dollar.
What do you want? How'd you get by Ziggy?
He's tied up with a stomach ache.
Oh?
Swallowed a fist.
Okay, you get rough. What else do you do?
Find out things?
Cop?
I'll make this quick, Bivens, because I have to. Red Dillon and Lou Fleischman are pretty dead.
Yeah? Who are they?
You worked with them in Kansas City in 43.
I did? I forget.
Dillon, Fleischman, and Fisher. Together you pulled a fancy payroll robbery.
The law didn't think so.
Lieutenant Parkinson was shot to death by Dillon.
Is that all?
Not quite.
Well, get it off your chest. I'm busy.
Dillon and Fleischman were working a protection racket.
Look,
They were just the collectors.
I've had about enough of this. I'm going to throw you out.
That's just what I want. Now get up.
What do you think you're doing?
I'm going to show you. You got Benny Waxman's daughter.
What are you talking about?
Sue me if I made a mistake. You've got his daughter.
You're crazy, like. Why, you...
Your two boys killed Parkinson and burned down Benny's store.
I don't know what you know.
Stand up.
You busted my nose.
You've been beating up a lot of nice little people for a year now. That nose is just a down payment.
If you think you can bust in here and go...
You know, you keep falling down. You better sit in a chair. Now, listen to me, Bevins. I'm in a nasty mood. Besides all the other people getting pushed around, your boys tried for me, too.
You're crazy.
I'm behind schedule. The cops can't book you, and I'm not going to let you kill that girl to save your dirty neck. Now, where is she?
I don't know where she is.
Please, believe me, Bivens.
Dollar. Look, I got friends. They'll take care of you.
Who's going to tell them to do it?
I am.
With your mouth swollen shut? Come on, Bivens. Where is she?
I don't know.
Where? Where?
Warehouse. 14th Street Dock.
What warehouse? All right.
No. Rogers and Sons. Big sign on the top.
Police department, please. Don't you know it's not polite to listen, Bivens?
What do you want me to do?
Go to sleep. I gave Sergeant Brenners what I had, and he told me he'd meet me at the warehouse. But in the meantime, he'd sent over for Bivens. He was as good as his word, for in less than 3 minutes, radio patrolmen were taking charge of Bivens and his entourage. The place looked like a police lineup when I left and headed for the warehouse. It was getting late when my cab pulled up near the river, and a cold wind was moving in from the Atlantic. Brenners got there a few minutes later, and he staked out his men.
If the girl isn't there, I'd hate to go in the front door.
Let's go in a window. I'm a second story man at heart anyway.
How'd you ever get Bivens to talk?
He'll tell you about it. He's bound to.
He'd make a lousy cop.
Brenners gave his men orders, then we went looking for a weak window. We found one in the back, crawled through, and dropped down on the dark, cold pavement inside the warehouse. I could hear a radio from somewhere towards the front of the building, so we picked our way along the wall until we found a flight of stairs and climbed up to the main floor. We opened the door and listened.
Hey, you getting cold?
Yeah.
I wish Bivens would call and tell us what to do with this dame.
We kept going, moving as quietly as possible until we saw them. 2 men sitting in a small storeroom. The door was open. We could see the girl, tied and gagged. It wasn't going to be easy.
There's an understatement. How do we get them away from the girl?
Make a noise. Bring them out to see what it is.
Okay. We better separate.
You get on that side so we get them between us. I want to shoot into that office.
Right.
Give it about 10 seconds and then push one of those crates over.
I'm getting hungry, too.
Now, relax. Hey. What? You hear something?
Look who's telling who to relax. I didn't hear nothing.
I'm getting the jumps. We've been in this dump for 3 days now. What was that? You gonna tell me I'm hearing things now?
Somebody's out there.
Yeah, kill the light.
What do we do?
Shut up.
With this dang kidnapping,
Shut up. Yeah, maybe it's nothing. Maybe a cat or a rat or something, huh?
Let's get out of here. Let's forget the dam and get out.
I told you to keep your face shut. Now, come on, let's see what it was.
Maybe it's the cops.
Something was wrong. Bivens would have called, wouldn't he?
Or maybe he couldn't. Maybe they got him.
Ah, nuts. Come on.
I don't see nothing. It's too dark.
And there's the crate.
Grab him, boys.
Come on!
This one's dead.
Yeah, the other one's on his way.
Well, let's go get the girl. Benny's worried enough. We took Benny's daughter back to her father, and he confirmed the story that Angie had told us. Angie was sent home, and the last I heard, the store owners who had been paying protection to Bivens were planning the biggest block party since the Boston tea caper. Expense account item 2, $20.80 for 2 dinners. Brenner's was nearly as hungry as I was. Item 3, $16, flowers for Lieutenant Parkinson's funeral. And item 4, same as item 1, fare and incidentals between New York and Hartford. Expense account total, $101.92. And the next time you send me out on a simple little insurance fire, make sure it's really simple. I don't mind helping people out occasionally, but I'm too old and too underpaid to go back to being a Boy Scout. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and was written by Blake Edwards with music by Eddie Dunstetter. Edmund O'Brien can now be seen starring in the Paramount Pictures production Warpath. Featured in tonight's cast were Joel Samuels, Bill Conrad, Sidney Miller, Jay Novello, and Ray Hartman. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is transcribed in Hollywood by Jaime Del Valle. Beginning next week, October 6th, Johnny Dollar will be heard on Saturdays at a new time. This is Dan Coverly inviting you to be with us on Saturday, October 6th, when Edmund O'Brien returns as...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Our country needs the help of every citizen. Defense bonds provide that help. They help to make America strong financially. They help to curb inflation. They make the individual family more secure. Defense bonds strengthen the military front, the production front, and the economic front. And just as important, buying United States defense bonds helps you by providing you with a safe, sound, profitable investment. Don't forget, defense is your job, too. Buy United States defense bonds today. Strike a blow for freedom. Join the crusade for freedom to get the truth to people behind the Iron Curtain. As long as they're kept in ignorance, the 10th world situation may not improve. Support the crusade for freedom with funds for freedom. Stay tuned now for the Virgil Akins-Freddie Dawson fight, which follows immediately over most of these same stations.
CBS, B for the best. F, yes, yes, yes. The star's address is CBS.
Remember, Wednesday night is Bing Crosby night on the CBS Radio Network.